meeting of the Wheeling Plan Commission for Thursday, June 13th, 2019. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Commissioner Blanova.
I'm here.
Commissioner Creech.
Present.
Commissioner Kalis.
Here.
Commissioner Powers is here. Commissioner Yednick.
Here.
And Chairman Johnson.
Here. Mr. Robles, any changes to the agenda tonight?
No changes to the agenda.
All right. Do we have any citizens' concerns and comments?
Yes.
Go ahead and read the...
Oh, yes. Citizens' concerns and comments. Members of the public may address the Plan Commission with comments regarding only those issues that are relevant to Plan Commission's agenda or topics that the Plan Commission has the authority pursuant to the Village Code to address. The chairperson or his or her designee shall strictly restrain comments to matters that are relevant to the Plan Commission business and shall not permit repetitious comments or arguments. Members of the general public who wish to address the Plan Commission must sign the request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public hearing. The person submitting a petition, concern, or other comment shall be allocated 5 minutes to present their points.
Thank you. Mr. Shermang? You're part of the petition? Yes. That's coming up? Okay, so you'll have an opportunity then. Mr. Malandrino. Right up here. Turn the microphone towards you a little bit, thank you.
Yeah, my company is at 634 Glen Avenue, and we see that JV Global item C is moving in, and we just have a concern about the traffic in general, since they're right next to us, and you know, if they're going to be idling on the street, backing up or anything like that, or you know, is there a traffic study or anything like that that might, you know, if too much traffic.
Property of the north or south of where
we are to the north.
Okay.
That's all I would.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else that didn't sign in? Very good. Consent items. Docket number SCBA 19-12, Northwest Implant Dental at 109 North Milwaukee Avenue for appearance approval of a freestanding sign. 6B, docket number SCBA 19-17, Hidden Valley, 1075 Chaddock Drive, appearance approval of a freestanding sign. Docket number SCBA 19-18, Stavros Law Office, 433 North Milwaukee Avenue, appearance approval of a wall sign. And 6D is Papanino Pizza at 208 McHenry Road, appearance approval of a wall sign.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I had a question.
Yes.
Yeah. Since the staff is making a recommendation to a change in item B to the petitioner's request, should there be discussion on that?
It was a condition of approval which staff has verified with the applicant that they are okay with that condition.
Okay.
So for us, it's still just a consent.
Okay. All right.
We have a motion from Commissioner Powers.
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Kalis. Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Commissioner Kalis.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Creech.
Yes.
Commissioner Yednick.
Yes.
And Chairman Johnson.
Yes. You got that, or do I need to do something? Okay. Items for review. Docket number 2019-12, continued from May 9th, 2019. Forever Dance Fitness LLC, 15 North Elmhurst Road, Special use for a recreational and instructional facility. Mr. Robles, anything more on that? The petitioners here?
Yes, so as the Plan Commission recalled, this item was originally scheduled on the April 25th Plan Commission. There was a little bit of delay on the notification, so it was continued to May 9th. And then now notification, proper notice has been provided, and so it is now on the agenda for tonight's Plan Commission meeting.
Go ahead.
Just real quick background on this. The zoning code does allow for what the term identified is personal instructional facilities. And the small facilities are allowed by right in this zoning district, which means that there's not a special use that's required. The only way that that is allowed is by identifying it as a small use, which means that the facility is limited to no more than 12 people. So Forever Dance received a business license, I believe, at the end of December for the personal instructional facility small, which limited them to 12 participants. Since then, they've submitted a special use request to increase that above 12, which the zoning code requires that a standard personal and instructional facility that's more than 12 people require a special use, given the increase in activity and participants. So that is why this is in front of you today. The request is to go from 12 participants to 26.
Okay, that being the case, Mr. Secretary, could you please?
Docket number 2019-12, Forever Dance Fitness LLC, lessee, seeking a special use permit as required under Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-05 Mixed Use Overlay District, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulations and associated sections in order to permit a recreation and instruction facility located at 15 North Elmhurst Road, which is zoned MXT Transit-Oriented Mixed Use District. Standards for a special use. A zoning special use is defined in Title 19 of the Village of Wheeling zoning as a use of a parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to circumstances or effects on the surrounding properties that may adversely affect them. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at the public hearing why their request meets the conditions of the Village Code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request for a special use meets the standards established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the Village Board. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Your petitioners, can you please state your name, business address, and I have to swear you in. Do you swear the testimony you're giving here tonight to be the truth? Raise your right hand. Okay. You swear that the testimony you're giving here is the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Your names and business address for the record, please.
My name is Emily Llanos. I'm the owner of Dance Forever Fitness.
My name is Sandra Jimenez. I work for a Zumba instructor there.
Okay. Please state what it is you're here for.
So we want to have the business open for 20 to 30 people instead of 15.
Okay, that's the heart of it.
Yeah.
Well, then we'll go right to the Plan Commission. Commissioner Blanova, we'll start with you.
Thank you. The only concern we had, was the soundproofing. Is anything going to be done on the walls to make sure the nail salon next to you not going to be affected by loud sounds?
So I'm start with these problems a couple months ago. So I was repair the whole studio to make new floors, glasses, and everything in the restaurant. So if it is necessary to do something to my beauty salon, I need to talk with the owner from the business. For de renta, la que renta, la que no renta, ¿cómo se llama? For the people when we was rented to me.
Okay. So it was no soundproofing on the walls?
No some proofing in the walls, but if it is necessary to do shows by this side, by the studio, probably I need to do.
Okay,
So I don't have anybody by the other side.
got it, got it.
The only problem is by the studio, by the salon,
Okay,
by the beauty salon.
that's all, thank you.
Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where did the noise complaints originate from? From the hair studio?
I think so it's from the hair studio because I don't have any more people around the studio.
Okay. I think we're asking that soundproofing is going to be needed, and I'm not sure. I think I probably would want it on both sides in case the tenant came in next door. A tenant did come in next door, that I think we need that both sides or whatever are soundproof, and I think, staff can handle that. Other than that, I have nothing else.
By the other side is empty.
I understand, but if somebody were to come and occupy that,
Yeah.
then
I don't know if I can do only one wall right now. If somebody come to use the other, I can do the other wall.
well, I
or
can,
wall.
I'll leave that up to staff. I mean, it sounds reasonable, but,
Is somebody's phone ringing? And
That's her.
please turn it off.
It's my daughter's phone, sorry. I don't know, it's here, but I don't know.
Thank you. You were done?
Yeah.
Commissioner Yednak.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. The staff is recommending no more than 26 participants, but the petitioner just testified they want to go up to 30. How are we going to control that?
Yeah, in the standards, in the response to the standards, it had indicated that the applicant wanted to increase it to 26, so that's what we based that number on.
Right, but now she's saying up to
Right,
30, so I'm
proposal
wondering,
now.
how are we gonna manage capping that if they're just gonna accept unlimited applications to classes?
So staff's review of this was based on the 26 participants, which is really a concern regarding parking, and the occupancy is based on building and fire code. So in this case here, if you have 26 participants and 3 employees, it needs 12 parking spaces. So if you increase that to 30, it's going to increase the number of parking spaces with that. There are 79 spaces at the center, and the center is not fully occupied, so staff feels that the center can sustain an additional 4 participants. So if the Plan Commission is willing to accept or increase that number to 30, you can add that as a condition. Staff's recommended condition of this was the 26, but that was, again, because of what was provided in the responses from the petitioner.
Well, that was my other question too. I didn't understand how, this seems like the flip side to what we've talked about with the auto repair businesses, where we've suspected that we've required a lot more parking spaces for those, whereas this kind of a business, I would think everybody would be arriving by themselves, so I don't know how we would go 12 spaces for 26 class participants plus staff. It would seem like every single one would have, and I know, like you said, that there's a lot of vacancies in that mall, so if they become occupied, I would think we're going to have a parking issue, because you're going to probably have at least 30 cars just from one class load.
It depends on what type of uses eventually go in. If they're high traffic generating uses or high parking uses, it could create a problem for the occupancy of the entire space down the road. But they could also be low parking generators, such as an office.
Well, that's what what I'm wondering though, is that if we allow this expanded use for this business, are we going to be restricting opportunities for other businesses to occupy some of the vacant spots?
It's hard to speculate
Because then we're going to
that.
have to cap it out.
I mean, it's hard to speculate that. It all depends on what eventually comes in there. So it's hard to say how the tenant spaces will fill up in the future. They could fill up with low low traffic generating uses, or they could fill up with high traffic generating uses. So it's all unknown.
Yeah, but that's not, that really answer my question. I'm saying if we allow this for this business and then another business comes in and wants, like you said, high traffic, then are we going to have to say no to them because we've expanded, we've given them a special use for this business? Or
It all depends. It all depend on the details of that future use. But since we don't know that right now, we can only assess the application on what we have right now today. And based on what the parking requirements are for this use and what's available at the site right now.
If a future use exceeds the parking at the site, they would need a variation for parking and be able to demonstrate how their parking needs wouldn't conflict with the existing uses. So it's like when it's a shared parking situation like this, it's more of like a first come, first serve.
okay, well, that's more answer my question. So we could possibly restrict other businesses.
Yes.
Because we're going to allow expansion here. And I'm surprised that the code would only require 12 for this situation. I would think it'd be like one per unit, one per participant. That was my question. I didn't understand how we only had 12 when we were talking about almost 25 or 30.
Sure.
I guess that's all the questions I have, but I also recommend the soundproofing absolutely be a requirement.
Thank you. Commissioner Creech.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Kalis.
Thank you, Chairman. Not to beat a dead horse here, but Steve, if so with Mallory, you actually said the parking is general to the whole building, like all of that. That's just okay because it's MXT use of the whole plaza. So each particular place doesn't get a certain amount of parking. It's kind of communal in a sense.
Right. There isn't a dedicated number of spots for each tenant. It's based on the overall mix of the center.
Okay. That to your point, Commissioner Yadnik, that I think will cause a problem in the future. I think our code for parking is interesting, especially compared to the mechanics who tried to come in and they didn't have enough parking. It's just now we have too much parking, but it might not be enough in the future. It's strange to me, but glad it works today. But future casting, it might not work tomorrow. So.
Well, good example is every time a new use comes to you for town center, we show you what the parking demands are for each of the uses already approved and what's available. And it's always a chart. And so it's a fluid system.
It makes sense today. I'm for the last guy that comes into this plaza or girl, sorry, for the last person that comes into this plaza, if they need a variation and it doesn't get like averaged out amongst all the it's just strange that person is penalized because they need a variance versus the other 5 people who have taken more spots than they probably should. So that's not this actually probably has nothing to do with the petitioner today, but more the code of parking. So I'm just trying to understand it and talk through it. So thank you for clarifying. A question for you. You're requesting 26 today as recommended by staff, but this came through in December, not even half a year ago. Is that December last year, right? Is there a reason you didn't request more back then? Did you just not anticipate this growth? How did you go from 12 to 26 in 6 months?
And now 30.
Oh, I can open more classes to get in more rooms. And right now, I'm coming from Palatine, and a lot of people coming from there. And there are coming only 1 car, 3 people, so I don't use too much the parking. And in the mornings, all the business that are closest, my first class is around 9, and all the around business that are stand around 10. So the parking is gone around 10, 5.
So my main question is, have you grown? You started off with 12 people in a class, and in 6 months now you need to support 26. That's basically the situation. Do you have someone with you that wants to?
Yes.
If you have to be sworn in, if you want to speak.
I'm Sandra.
If you want to speak, just come and be sworn in.
You have to be sworn in. Raise your right hand.
My name is Marco. I come late, running for work.
Okay. Do you swear the testimony you're going to give?
Yes, I swear.
be the truth? Thank you.
I don't know if I explained you before. I was same business last year. My wife was there the whole year, and we training the people talking about the parking spot, we try to leave the spot for the neighbors, the other business. So they parking by the side of the West Kmart. On the back side, if you check, it's plenty parking over there.
Yeah.
So people already know we have a kind of issue with that,
Yeah.
with the neighbor. So they already familiar with the issue. So they go over there and parking on the other side. And talking about if they grow business, she was there already the whole year, last year for the previous owner.
Okay,
So now she take with her partner back there.
okay,
Also, they take the business now, and also because of parking, they change the scale, the parking and people. They do, they use the space for 4 hours, in the morning 9 a.m., 7, 6, and 7 p.m. That's it, 4 hours a day. So people come, as what she said, try to explain, they come from Palatine to Willie, because both of them, they live in Palatine, we live in Palatine, they come here, Willie. So we've been for 2 years already over here in the neighborhood, and we have family friends also.
Sure.
So they follow them everywhere where
Sure.
they go. So they happy over here.
Okay.
Really. So most of the community, they know where Dance Forever is right now.
okay. So it's just natural growth. I'm just wondering why you didn't ask for 26 back then in December.
And that's why they split the hours, was only 2 hours.
Got it.
And now because
You've
there's
expanded.
more people coming, we have to fix the
Good problem to
parking,
have.
the people, so they split. You know, now people come in different time, and that's what is not issue right now. And also, you recommended the soundproof wall. Yeah, we tried with the neighbor to work out. One of the things we did, we changed the speaker that we have last year with the previous owner. He got a big speaker.
Okay,
Now we have smaller speaker,
okay,
not too loud. And for some reason, maybe it doesn't work. And we adjust the volume. Second thing, last 2 weeks ago, I went to the store, get a remote control with a red light, and she's open with me to talk, about issues. And I told her, I'm going to give you the remote in case you have any problem with the music.
okay,
You got the control. So
Okay.
Somehow she was taken, but later she returned and she said, you know what? If I had issue, I go with you guys better. So,
okay.
and
So you're very aware of who's making the complaints that you said is it the salon?
Yeah, because-
Okay, and it's nobody else, it doesn't go further than
there's only
into-
one
Okay.
next door.
Okay. But there is a spot on the other side, like you can't see it in this drawing, but there is a vacant spot on the other side, right?
Right,
Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, it is vacant, but we have to look in the future and just protect against the future. So soundproofing wise, it would have to be on both sides, just because the next guy is going to, again, next person's going to come in. They might have the same issue. And while it's nice to give them a remote and be able to control it, it's just kind of, with the growth, you just kind of have to make sure that everybody's happy around you and you're a good neighbor, and that is soundproofing at the least.
Yeah, right now, because we just started in the neighborhood as a new name and everything, we try to do our best with the neighbors. We know them from a while.
Okay,
But right now, we try to work in the wall to put the soundproof. That way, in case later we have another neighbor in the other corner, the one you mentioned,
yeah,
we gotta do the same. We mentioned already to the landlord.
Okay.
We let it know.
okay,
So she says she say first check appraisal, check, and she's going to say, I'm going to deal with the village, with the city
okay,
for permit in future,
okay.
what we have for plan right now.
Okay, great. I love that you're growing. I love the idea. I love that you're helping the community and being healthy. It's a great business, and congratulations for growing. I just want to, it's our job to make sure it's done right. Neighbors are happy. Parking situation is as least a problem as possible, even though it's always a problem. And for the Kmart, it's going to be something else someday, so you're not going to have that overflow of people. So we have to take all these things into consideration, just so you know. That's why we ask these questions, because today it looks fine, but in a year, Wheeling is growing very fast, and it's going to be different next year, so we have to just kind of look at that.
And that's our plan. You mentioned to Steve Robles, like in the future, we need to get a bigger space, more location.
Take the whole space, the whole Kmart lot, that's
Now
fine.
we know what is the issues. Now we know we never had this issue, but now we know.
Okay, well, good. Thanks for being understanding, and that's it for me. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Explain to me how your classes work. I mean, do you have 30 at a time, or do you intend to have 30 at a time? You don't know.
No, in the morning shows I have 14, 16 people in the morning, and in the afternoons around like 22. It's me, my husband, my 2 kids, and my partner, and he's a little boy, and that's it.
And you really only have like 2 sessions per day?
Yes.
Is that what I'm
No,
hearing?
it's 4 sessions.
Oh, okay.
9 in the morning, later 11 is just a couple people, and 5, 6, 10, and 7:20. So there are
Okay.
divided people in different classes.
And right now, the most you have in any of them is 22, you said?
I want to take the number because I don't want any complaint, that's why I want to open a little big one. Sometimes you never know. Anybody can come to see more people, and I don't want any complaint, that's why.
Mr. Antor, is there any occupancy issues with 30 people in that?
No, basically, without doing the calculations, for dance-type activities, they have 2 exits, so that allows an occupancy over 50.
Okay.
Notwithstanding some other issues. So based on standing space and the fact that they have 2 exits, they would be compliant.
Okay, thank you. I would like to see the soundproofing. I guess we can probably poll the commission to see how we want to handle this. It sounds like they're working with their neighbors, correct?
Yep.
Do we know when the last time we got a noise complaint was? I mean, was it a year ago?
No, it was more recent than that. I think it was maybe about a month ago.
Are you aware of that?
And 6 months is where we have it two times. In 6 months. From December to today, they complained twice. But I figure out it's not the owner, somebody else in there. But anyways, we don't want to go that far. We just want to deal with the owner about the issues.
So, do we want to keep the second condition in place about soundproofing? Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Yednek?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis?
Yeah, so it says soundproofing shall be installed on the shared tenant walls, so that is assuming we're talking about both sides?
That's how I would read that.
Okay, then that's fine by me.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes, I like to
And
see it.
I would like to keep that in there too. As far as the number of participants, they stated tonight that they would like to go to 30 instead of the 26 that's in the condition. Are you okay with increasing it, Commissioner Kalis?
That changes parking, I assume, technically? I mean, from 12 to 13 or something?
The way the parking ratio works, it increases it by 1 space.
Okay, and it all doesn't matter anyway, so, yeah, sure, yeah. 30 is fine.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
I have no problem with it.
And Commissioner Yednek?
No.
No, you don't want it increased?
I think the parking doesn't make sense to me. I think we're pushing.
It doesn't at 26 either, but.
I think we're talking about 30 spaces for 30 people.
Well, I'm going to say yes on letting them go to 30, so we will modify that condition, please. And then read the conditions and we'll ask
Yeah,
for a motion.
the revised conditions are, number one, the number of participants shall not exceed 30 people at any time, any one time. Number two, prior to the issuance of a revised business license, allowing for the increase in participants, the soundproofing shall be installed on the shared tenant walls, subject to village staff review and approval.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Powers, seconded by Commissioner Kalis. Mr. Secretary?
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Yednick?
Yes.
And Chairman Johnson?
Yes. We'll have something for you to sign,
And we need a motion to close the public hearing.
and we need a motion to close the public hearing, I'm told.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second everything. I'll hesitate. Just red line it.
If you want to come and sign get that for you here.
Goes off.
Oh, yeah.
There's 2 copies, you get to keep one and sign the other one and give it back.
Just take one of them. Thank you. I'll follow up with Marco tomorrow. I'll give you a call tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Calling docket number PC 19-11, Senju America, 1200 South Wolf Road for a minor site plan and appearance approval of external equipment. Mr. Robles.
Yes, thank you. This is a minor site plan and appearance approval. Senju America has taken over the former Granger building and are in the process. They've obtained a permit to do interior build-outs for the new warehouse or manufacturing portion. During that permit review, staff noticed the exterior equipment and just the level of the equipment and the enclosure required the minor site plan appearance review, which is in front of you today. And there are no conditions on this. There are no staff conditions with this recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Can you explain what it is you're doing?
Sure. So our clients manufacture soldering powder. It's an eco-friendly soldering powder product. Part of the manufacturing process with that is to introduce liquid nitrogen into the manufacturing process. It purifies the powder and makes the granulars more round. So our client, obviously for their manufacturing process need to install an exterior liquid nitrogen tank to supply the nitrogen for the process. So we're proposing to build a pad specifically for, a concrete pad specifically for the tank and the evaporator. Praxair will supply the tank and all of the equipment and, obviously the liquid nitrogen as well. They have a program to maintain the equipment as well, so obviously it'll be, well maintained by a professional company, as well as a daily site inspection by Senju America, who is operating the facility. We propose to put a 6-foot chain link fence with privacy slats around it to make it a little bit more appealing. Obviously, I know the tank and the evaporator are much taller than that, but there is a trash enclosure that's in front of those that kind of blocks your view from the street. So we were just thinking that it would be more aesthetically pleasing to put an enclosure around that equipment facility as well.
Thank you. And I neglected to ask for your name and business address for the
So
record.
my name is Jeff Musalevich. I'm with Peak Construction, who is the general contractor on the project. Senju America is obviously the business owner, who is our client. We're doing the
Okay. All right. Go to the commissioners. Commissioner Powers.
I really have nothing. The only comment I have is that when you do put the pad in on the, Steve, can you go back one screen? Oops. Yeah, right there. There's a security camera there. I don't know if you may want to convey, if the new build-out's going to, render that camera inoperable, they may want to think about moving it. I don't know.
Right. I don't know that they're going to use the security camera.
Okay, that's fine.
But,
I have nothing else. I'm fine with this.
right, that's an existing condition, so.
Commissioner Creech.
I have nothing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Blanova.
I have nothing, sir, thank you.
Mr. Kalis.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess I have a question for staff. Is the village's preference for brick surrounds only exclusive to garbage cans and not gigantically tall nitrogen tanks?
I think the preference for more aesthetically enhanced materials is when they're highly visible or in high traffic areas such as along street frontages or pedestrian areas. So taking some of the more recent examples from recent past Plan Commission meetings where there were items along the street frontage or within heavily pedestrian downtown mixed-use developments. So in this case here, being that it's an industrial area, this is very reflective of similar equipment enclosures that we have. So this is just in line with what has been allowed in the past.
Okay, I'm glad you said that it's in line with other equipment enclosures in Wheeling, because I saw some pictures that's in the packet that are of other sites. I don't know if they're in Wheeling or not, but it seems when there's a tank that's taller than a fence, it's usually a chain link. So I've not been on the commission long enough to have seen a chain link fence approved, and I know that it's very contentious when we talk about surrounding materials around things. So just want to clarify that. No questions other than that.
Okay, Commissioner Yednak.
I have less concern with the appearance than the safety. I don't know anything about storing liquid nitrogen. I assume it's under pressure. Can we assume that when we say the engineering department, the fire department had no concerns, that all that has been reviewed, approved, and we don't have to be concerned? Okay.
To the capacity that we have control over these pieces of equipment, but yes, in the sense of the equipment being located in this area at this property, there weren't any follow conditions of engineering or fire.
Okay, I just didn't know if we have other situations in the village like this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Nothing further.
All right, thank you. Were they changing any of the exterior of the building and keeping the granger red and gray?
The only other project we're doing on the exterior is resurfacing the roof.
Okay.
So they'll change the metal coping around the roof, but it's going to be the same color that it was prior.
All right. Ms. Robles, anything else on this?
Nothing else.
Well, then I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Made by Commissioner Kalis, seconded by Commissioner Powers. Mr. Secretary?
Mr. Kalis.
Yes.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Creech.
Yes.
Commissioner Yednak.
Yes.
And Chairman Johnson.
Yes. We'll have something for you to sign in a moment. Sign both, and you get to keep one as a parting gift. All right.
I'll double check on that permit paperwork, but I think that's fine. We just did a partial release, so I'll just double check, see if you need anything else. But I'll follow up with you tomorrow and let you know that. Yeah, thanks, John.
All right. Calling docket numbers 2019-11, A, B, C, and D. JV Global, 199 Shepard Avenue, where 2019-11A is a variance to decrease required green space. 11B, special use for motor vehicle heavy repair facility. 11C, special use and site plan approval for a motor vehicle heavy outdoor storage. And 11D, special use for truck freight terminal. Mr. Secretary?
Docket numbers 2019, 11A, B, C, and D, JV Global applicants seeking the following associated with heavy motor vehicle operations within an existing industrial warehouse building located at 199 Shepard, Wheeling, Illinois, which is zoned I-3 General Industrial District. 2019-11B, special use is required under Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-07 Industrial Districts, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulations and associated sections in order to permit a motor vehicle heavy repair facility within a portion of the existing building, and 2019-11C special use site plan approval is required under Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-07 Industrial Districts, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulations, Chapter 19-12 Site Plan Approval Requirements and associated sections in order to permit motor vehicle heavy outdoor storage within a proposed surface parking lot. And 2019-11D special use is required under the Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-07 Industrial Districts, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulations and associated sections in order to permit a truck freight terminal consisting of 2 operators. Standards for a variation. A zoning variation is intended to be a method of adjustment to equalize regulations where Title 19 of the Village of Wheeling zoning has created an unnecessary hardship. Variation is designed to allow affected property owners the same rights and privileges that others enjoy in the same zoning district. In order to be granted a variation, a petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at the public hearing why the request meets the conditions of the village code, including but not limited to how their individual situation is unique or unusual. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request for variation meets the standards established in Title 19. The commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make some findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Robles, before we get started.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, just a brief overview. First, before I forget, the petitioner's presentation materials as well as the staff report are made part of the public record tonight. Just real brief overview on this. This property at 199 Shepard was the former Skokie Valley Beverage Company building, and the request in a nutshell is basically to convert it from a single industrial use building to a multi-tenant industrial use building. I'll let Dan Shapiro get into the nuts and bolts of that. Basically, the variety of special uses, there are a couple of uses that are permitted within the I-3 zoning district that are part of this element, but they're part of the ultimate use of the property, but not subject to tonight's requests. And then there are a variety of special uses related to heavy motor vehicle use and storage and repair. There are a variety of concerns that staff has outlined within the staff report. There's a summary of them on page 12 of the staff report. There's essentially 6 items of staff concern that relate to use as well as the some further detail that we would like from the petitioner. Those being just overall for the Plan Commission's consideration on the site's location and its suitability for the heavy motor vehicle repair. consideration if the special use for the outdoor truck and trailer parking has the potential to be used by unrelated businesses. Determine if the freight operation should be required to occur inside the building, as that wasn't specified. Number 4, determination of the special use for the truck freight terminal shall identify or specify, or shall be limited rather to the identified number of tenants, the space itself, just to basically put a control on the freight terminal operations. We would just like to see a detail on the proposed ornamental gate. And then staff really believes, or strongly believes, that an external trash container as well as enclosure should be provided on the site rather than handled internally, given that this is going to a multi-tenant use. Those are the concerns kind of as they relate to the special use and the use of the property and some of the site improvements. In regards to the parking variation, staff feels that the variance is
The green space.
Yeah, it's the variation to reduce the green space from the required 25% to 14%. Staff believe that this is a result of the request to improve the remaining lot with the identified number of parking spaces. So we feel that in terms of any physical hardship or difficulty in complying with the code in this particular situation is not present, and we feel that the site can be developed in compliance with the green space requirement. So that's just an overview from staff. I'll turn it over to Dan Shapiro to provide full analysis on the request.
Thank you, Steve.
Before we get started, who all is going to be talking? Get them all sworn in at once.
Raise your right hand.
You swear the testimony you're giving here today to be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. And then you can give your names as you come up, but.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Dan Shapiro. We thank you for giving us the opportunity to come before you tonight for this public hearing. The staff report is very comprehensive. There's a lot going on, so I'm not going to regurgitate all of it for you. I think that you might find that to be a good thing. But I do want to talk about certain highlights and certain important things and try to answer some of the questions up front, and then allow our team to go into more detail about the plan. So our team, Mark Rooney is our civil engineer, and he will be talking about the plan as well as stormwater detention, landscaping, ingress, egress, and other engineering concerns. Louis Abuna is our traffic engineer. We did submit a traffic report, which I believe, Steve, you have, and he will be available for questions. Ashley Zinger is here on behalf of the petitioner, and the owner, current owner, we are a contract purchaser. The current owner, Ken Shermang, and I'm sure I'm not saying that correctly, so please accept my apologies, is also here. Before I turn it over to Ken, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the things in the staff report which I thought were important to highlight for you. First of all, this use is in the I-3 district, and we know that this is an area surrounded by industrial. We also know that there are other such similar industrial uses in the area. As a matter of fact, there's bus depot, school bus depot just down the street. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. Throughout the staff report, we were pleased to see that the uses here are consistent with the comprehensive plan, the village's comprehensive plan. And I know that's important for you, and it has been. So to the north it's industrial, south is industrial, east is industrial. There's the ComEd right away, and the comprehensive plan also shows this as industrial. On page 2 of the staff report, there's a chart which staff took from information we gave to hopefully provide some organization of our thoughts, tenants, occupants, square footage, prospective truck spaces, etc. Just in terms of summary, you'll see that there are 5 tenants for the space of the building. Between Argus and Fresh Farms, there's a total of about 40 years of their businesses here in the village of Wheeling. That's something for them to be proud of, as well as for this village to be proud of. It is expected that between all 5 employees, there will be, all 5 tenants, there will be about 76 employees that will come from that. The hours of operation, as well as the type of entitlement requests, are also listed on this chart, which I hope for you provide some detail and some organization of our requests. There are really 3 main requests, as Steve just spoke about. There's a special use request for motor vehicle repair. One of the items in the staff report, maybe one of the concerns on page 12 of the staff report, is making sure that the repair of motor vehicles and truck vehicles stay within the tenants of the building. Ashley will speak to that, but there is a control, a method of control to ensure that that happens. Primarily, every truck that comes on site is identified by serial number or VIN or license plate or driver. There's an identification of every truck that comes on site. That's just part of the business. So if there's a truck that wants to have some repairs done, that truck that wants to have repairs done must be one that's identified and say in the books in order for that truck to receive a repair. The other special use is for outdoor storage, and speaking with staff a little bit about this, this appears to be, outdoor storage appears to be correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, a belt and suspenders request here. Both the Argus space and the Fresh Farm space are for warehousing and distribution, which in fact allows for outdoor storage, and your code requires outdoor storage where a truck is there for more than 48 hours. So I can't say that they won't be. In our narrative, we said that trucks could be there as long as 5 days. So we're asking for that as kind of a belt and suspenders request. I also see in the staff report that outdoor storage is consistent with the comprehensive plan as it is identified in this location. Another concern or comment that staff made was in reference to the bottom of page 3 and going to page 4 of the staff report about the freight terminal operations. And I think staff wanted clarification on whether those would be indoor or outdoor. To be clear, that there will be no trucks inside the building. To be clear, there will be no trucks inside the building. There will be trucks that could come up to the dock for loading and unloading, but they will not be inside the building. So when we're talking about operations, we're talking about the, at least from our perspective, the logistics operations that we talked about. Those, of course, will be inside. There are more office and logistic uses. That will be inside, but no trucks with respect to those will be inside. Of course, for maintenance, the trucks have to be inside. There's currently equipment inside and has been in there for 50 years. But when we're talking about distribution and stuff like that, the trucks will not come inside. So I want to make that clear. There was also concern about the total building area relative to the tenants. As we said in our narrative, there will be leases where the truck spaces will be tied to the lease. So, you know, if you just consider Fresh Farms, for example, Fresh Farms will get 19 spaces in their lease, no more, no less. So all tenants will have a link to the lease for their parking spaces. With regard to the ornamental fence, we did not provide a cut sheet for you. We fully intend to. We apologize, but we have absolutely no problem if that is a condition. We certainly are cool with that. With regards to the variation, I'm going to let Mark speak to that in just a moment. And with regards to trash collection, I'm going to have Ashley as well as Ken speak to that. I think if you would just indulge us for 5 or 6 minutes, because to understand better what we're proposing requires some context of what was there. As many of you know, Skokie Beverage was there for 50 years and had a certain business, which constituted, among other things, truck wash, repair, many trucks, et cetera. So I think it's important, and I'd like to now turn it over to Ken for him to talk about what has been there for the last 50 years, to understand better the nature of our requests. So I thank you for your time. At the end of our presentation, we certainly will be available for any questions.
Okay. Once again, your name and business address?
Ken Shermang, 199 Shepard Avenue in Wheeling, one of the owners of the facility in question here. I'm here to answer any questions, but I'll give you a brief description of what we did there.
Okay.
We were a wholesale beer distributor. We serviced, at the end, probably about 25 suppliers. In the beginning, 50 years ago, we had one. So as the business grew, our building grew. As our business grew, my father had the insight to buy the additional property. And we actually, looking at that facility, if you go, we started in the north, and you go south, it went all the way to the end of the property. Then we had to go east. So our parking lot literally went from being in the front to being in the back.
You've had 2 additions.
No, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additions.
Oh, okay.
And there were plans to go further into the field that we're talking about. There was one comment about a gentleman, I believe in the beginning, about trucks possibly backing up or turning around. When we built the facility in 1969, trailers were at the most 42 feet long. Today, trailers at minimum are 54 feet long. My father had the insight to have the trucks come in off of Shepard Avenue. There's enough enough blacktop and concrete in the back for them to turn around. No one ever turned around on a street. They couldn't. If they did, they were calling a tow truck to be pulled out because they got stuck in the grass somewhere. We did service all of our vehicles there since 1969 or 70, from golf carts, cars, trucks, we had over 25 forklifts, tractors and trailers. In the beginning, we actually had 2 different fleets. One was our local delivery fleet. One was the fleet that brought all our beer in from La Crosse, Wisconsin. We had 8 tractors that ran round the clock, and we had 19 42-foot trailers that the drivers would go to the brewery, drop a trailer, pick one up, come back, drop one here, take an empty back up and fill it up in just 24 hours a day. At the end, we started with 1 shift. At the end, we were working 24 hours around the clock. We were closed on Sunday. That was about it. But they came in Sunday night to start loading the trucks for the next day. We did have provided me with these pictures, so please bear with me. This is the original mechanics area. It has a pit in the floor. If you'd like, I can pass it around her. It had a pit in the floor where the mechanic could go underneath and work on the truck standing up instead of laying on the floor. And
Can you get back by the microphone?
I got that.
Thank you. We have a huge audience at home watching.
The trucks, cars may have 5 quarts of oil. The tractors had maybe 5 gallons or more of oil. So it was really to their advantage to be able to stand up and service the vehicle. This is another area. At one time, our loading docks were outside. We tore them down, and this was an inside loading dock. It is now, it was an inside loading dock. It's turned into be a 3-bay area to service all the trailers. The tractors and other oil changes were all done in that other area.
Okay.
Next to that is our truck wash, which was actually built in 1977 by a company that was located in Wheeling called Ross and White. They did them throughout the country. We were the first one they did locally. So they were very proud of that, and they would bring a lot of people over to service our truck, to wash our trucks and look at the facility. This is another shot of the truck wash. One of the comments that I made earlier to the owners of the business is that probably, I don't know how many years ago, it was over 30 years ago, the village of Wheeling joined the North Suburban SWAT team. They housed the truck here in Wheeling. They called me and asked me if they could wash their truck in our truck wash because they had no other way of doing it. I was more than happy to do it. Todd Wolf, who's deputy chief, would bring them over and we'd wash it for them. And, you know, the village of Wheeling has always been fabulous to work with. Not sure what other pictures they have here. Oh, this is the front of the building. There was a comment about garbage. I'm only throwing this out for myself. That garbage can was never in the front. It's there because the back parking lot is fenced in to prevent kids or anybody from driving back there or doing vandalism. There's nothing back there, but you never know. We were a beer warehouse, and kids were constantly trying to figure out a way to get in. We actually had a guy, I mean, they tried to come in through the skylights up on the roof. The fire department would come over with a hook and ladder and go up on the roof and catch the guys, and off they'd go. But they were always looking for beer. They never got it.
Imagine that.
That garbage can was always fenced in the back. The back parking lot is fenced in. It's about a 10-foot fence, I'm guessing, with barbed wire on the top, and there are bushes surrounding it. It was part of the beautification of the property. You can't really see any of that from the street. And the only trucks that were parked inside our warehouse in the evening were if they were loaded. Empty vehicles were all parked outside in the back parking lot, behind the gate and the padlock. I'm not sure if there are any other, if I can offer anything else.
There may be more questions down the road. One quick one. Do you have any operations in there now?
No.
No? And where did you move to?
We sold.
Oh.
My brothers and I, it was time for us to get out, and we sold the business, I believe it was August 3rd, so we've just been waiting. We've been working with them to sell the property, and just hopefully the Village of Wheeling will approve it. And in 1995, when we put the last addition on our building, the village was concerned about not having fire hydrants behind the building and be able to service it. So my father, there's a red line from the property going down Shepard all the way to Glen, put in, I believe, 5 or 6 fire hydrants at a cost, at that time, cost us over $60,000 in order to appease the village. And also, I mean, we didn't want any fire, and since there was nothing out there, we paid to do it. Like I say, the Village of Wheeling has been fabulous to deal with. I've known a lot of people here since we moved in 69 or 70, and I hope to continue my relationship with all the people that I've met over the years. We started with Family Fest and did many other different functions in Wheeling, so we really enjoyed Wheeling. They were fabulous to work with, and I thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you want me to stick around, or?
No, we may have some.
Yeah, that's fine.
For now, Mr. Shapiro, what's next?
I hope that helped. And I
It did.
Appreciate your time.
Good evening, everybody. Ashley Vareljan, 150 Abbott Drive. I don't know about you, but I'm so super excited about this project. My team covered a little bit, a few things that I wanted to go over, but you probably want to know what JV is going to do with this building, right? So if you look at the building, it's huge. It's humongous. It's over 100,000 square feet. We worked very hard And we do have letter of intents from 5 tenants that are so eager to move in. So first 2 are the larger ones. They're Argus Plastic. They, like Mr. Shapiro mentioned, they've been in town for many years. They have over 300 employees in their facility right now in Village of Wheeling. They also own probably around 400,000 square footage in this town, between all the buildings, manufacturers, and warehouses. So it's time for them to grow, and I think this is a great opportunity for them to move in. I want to highlight that this is an I-3 zoning. This is a dead end. We have manufacturers, we have warehouses, transportations, logistics all around the area. We do have, right next to us, our neighbors are a school bus parking lot. So the second biggest company that is moving in is Fresh Farm. And that's another business that's been in town for many, many years. And they're looking for our cooler section. That's the very last addition on the drawing. And each of these tenants do need parking. So that's why if you look to the left, to the right, then that grass area we would love to improve. That's an adjacent to our property. It is one owner. If everything goes smooth, we're going to be the owners, and we would like to improve it. From security standpoint, we're going to have gates. Each tenant will have dedicated space. We want to know who is there. Again, we're going to have their MCs, DOTs, trailer plates, truck plates, insurances. If they switch trucks, if they sell and they buy new ones, we want to know about it. There's an application that they need to go through. They need to be approved. And if once that happens, there's rules and regulations they need to follow with us. If that doesn't happen, then we would take it to the next level. The other remaining companies that we have on board is Seal Transportation. That's a brokerage company. We have Kamas Transportation. That's a third-party logistics. And the JV Global will occupy the remaining space. I know there are some of you might have questions to our application. If you have it, we'll be more than happy to answer it. I have my team here. I think I want to introduce Mr. Rooney next, from Rooney Consulting Company. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Good evening. I'm Mark Rooney. I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of Illinois and have been for quite a long time. I'm going to talk, of course, about the site development proposals for this project. And that's a good one to start with. Basically, the property is composed of 2 lots, aptly labeled as Lot 1 and Lot 2. Lot 2 is essentially fully developed, and it includes a building and paved areas that accommodated employee parking and truck parking, as well as loading and unloading from the docks that are present on the building. The only site changes that are proposed for this Lot 2 are reconfiguration of the striping to accommodate the current parking requirements and the ADA requirements. The major site development proposed, therefore, is the new paved trucking parking area on Lot 1, and that's the shaded area. When you start a project like this, the first big concern is stormwater management. So one of the first things we did was we talked to the engineering department in the village, and we talked to the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, and got all the permits that were ever issued that had anything to do with stormwater detention or water. We got a lot of other permits for site development. And it turns out that in 1977, if you look at the plan on the southwest corner of the facility, right there is the existing detention pond, or detention basin, and that was built in 1977. As we went through all the permits, we came up with this exhibit that shows what was included in the detention basin. This portion here, this north portion, was built prior to 1971, and no detention was required for that. Everything else south of this line was included in the stormwater detention facility that was designed. And there's 2 or 3 permits that talk about it. The direct permit, it was issued in 1977, and I have the permits here. So that, of course, is not a concern. As far as drainage go, the whole site drains from east to west, and it's easily drained to get the stormwater into that existing detention basin. The other site improvements that are contemplated are looping the water main. As previously mentioned, there's a water main now that was constructed all along the north property line. We will bring a line south to the south edge of the property, and then run that all the way to the east, looping the system and providing additional hydrants at the spacings required by the fire department. The whole area would be fenced for security purposes, fenced on 3 sides with an 8-foot high wooden board fence, and all 3 sides, of course, would be landscaped in accordance with the landscaping requirements in the ordinance. Regarding access, right now the site access for this is from Shepard Avenue. We'll add an additional access point on Glen Avenue that will have the potential to, will have the ability to reduce any potential congestion, and it also serve as an emergency exit in case of any emergency on the site. It's always preferable to have 2 entrances. There were 2 recent comments from staff that we didn't have a chance to respond to, and I'd like to do it now. The first concerns provisions for preventing trucks parked along Glen Avenue from backing into the fence. And we propose concrete wheel stops, but staff has recommended concrete curbs, and we concur with that recommendation. The second has to do with the concern from the fire department about landscaping on Glen Avenue interfering with the hydrants. And we haven't had a chance to discuss this concern, but we'll do whatever it takes to satisfy it, either adjustments in the landscaping or adding additional hydrants. So that's basically what I wanted to talk to you about. Are there any questions or?
I'm sure we'll have some.
Okay, thank you.
Before we turn it over for questions, there are just a couple of things I'd like to say. Security, as stated in our narrative, there will be a gate. Each driver will have a key card. It will be 24/7, and that key card is hooked up only to that driver. There'll also be video cameras. I think we indicated in our letter 20 to 25 video surveillance cameras at the site. And also to be clear, what Mark just said is the as I understand it, the MWRD permit, which was granted many years ago, contemplated that Lot 1 would be impervious. The plan that's on that board from 1996, which was okay with MWRD purposes, shows a building that whose footprint is really virtually all of Lot 1. So when we talk about Lot 1, the parking lot, that same extent of impervious was something that was compliant with the MWRD permit as early as 70s and as recently as 1996. We are available for questions. As I said before, our traffic engineer is available for questions, as all of us are, and we're happy to take them.
Anything from staff before we start with the commission?
Do you want to make sure you open it to the public for any comments?
And is there anybody from the public who would like to speak on this? You know, you've already, but if you have any more to say, come on up.
If I have questions in between, can I ask them, or is this my own time? Yeah, we can make room. Okay, so we will go to the commission. Let's start with Commissioner Kalis.
Thanks, Chairman. Thank you for the presentation again. I applaud your diligence and continually trying to come into Wheeling. I appreciate your loyalty to wanting to be here. So are we speaking right now about the first or any of these
I
dockets?
think we should
Just
cover
about
any of them.
any of them? Oh, okay.
We'll have to vote on them separately, but
Right. Okay.
it's pretty hard to separate them.
Sure, and that's why I was out, because I'm trying to figure that out. So there's 5 tenants potentially, right? And so one of the problems is that you're asking to reduce the green space from required 25% to 14. Another solution to that would be making less parking spots, which would, you know, a way to do that is to have less tenants, correct? So have you guys, what is it about 5 tenants? Is it not feasible for you guys to operate the business with 4 or 3, or what about it requires that you have this set amount of parking spots that breaks our code?
Anything's feasible, right? I mean, could we have a single tenant? Sure. But what we got were 2 letters of intent and tenants who are expressed interest now. One thing that I've seen happen, not only with this village, but other villages, you come in and someone says, well, do you have a letter of intent? Is anyone interested? And sometimes I say no.
Yeah.
And then jaws drop. What? You know, so these are the folks who are interested now in taking these spaces.
It's great that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it magic? No, but it's, you know, while the fire's hot, right? You strike.
Sure.
And what we tried then to do is we tried to say, okay, of these tenants, of these operations, let us look at, and I know our team looked at this very hard over the last several months, let us try to figure out, say, the most conservative number of spaces that not only work for the tenants, for the operations, but also, I mean, let's be realistic, that can be, you know, make it financially viable. If I didn't say that to you, you would say, you know, why aren't you talking about it? So that's part of what we do. That's part of what developers do.
Thank you for saying
So
that.
it's not something that we're hiding.
Yeah.
But it is something that's part of the overall equation.
Sure.
So in looking at the tenants' needs, the tenants that are ready to roll, as well as the operations, we came with that number.
Okay.
And we need some help.
Okay, and the economics are not our purview, that's the trustees that you'll be
Understood, but I
speaking
want to be as...
And I love that conversation, but I'm not a trustee, so I'll leave
Right,
that.
and I just want to be as transparent as possible while giving you the best answer I can.
Thank you for your honesty. And so I don't know how many spots equate to the extra 11% that would get you compliant to the 25%, but I was just curious if you had looked at that number.
We did.
And
We
how
did.
many parking spots would
I
you
believe we
lose?
lose, how much was it, like 40 spots?
40?
A lot.
Of a total of how many?
84?
Yeah.
Really? Half of it would?
I'm going to just...
I'm not holding you to this.
I'm going to just, don't take my word, you know, we have to ask Mr. Rooney, but suffice it to say, we did look at that, and it's significant. Don't take me for gospel.
So you don't know for sure the exact
I don't
amount?
know.
Okay.
I believe...
Does anybody know?
Mark, do you remember what it was?
Okay.
I thought it was 1%.
18.
Okay.
That makes a lot more
So forget
sense.
what I
Thank
said. 40 probably was something else. 18 spots. So we
Thank
go
you.
down to 66.
Okay. So then that would just make me want to look at your nice chart, which you did, and 18 spots is about the amount that Fresh Farms Kamaz seal.
Kamaz, yes.
Each one of them, you would have to lop off one of them. So, you know, taking away one tenant is an option versus asking us to make a variance. That's kind of.
Is that an option? Sure.
Of course.
But I'll just go back to the beginning of what I said.
Yep.
It's like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. You
get it.
try to put the pieces together for a successful operation, which I know you guys want,
Yep.
and to have tenants like now.
I get it. I'm a business owner. I understand, you know, turning away business is, you know, a thing, not a thing you want to do, but I just wanted to have the conversation
Sure.
and flesh out the numbers. And,
Sure.
I mean, this, like Ashley had said, this does look like a really nice spot if it all worked. Unfortunately, there's 4 dockets that, you know, have some details that we have to flesh out. And just like anything, it's fitting around a peg into a square hole sort of thing. I just have to ask these questions.
I'd be disappointed if you didn't. So ask away.
And they'd fire me, and no, just kidding. From my volunteer position. Actually, no, anyway.
We can't afford that.
I wasn't going to go there, but yeah, that's right. So someone from the public, a business owner in the neighborhood, and I don't know this was specifically addressed, but he did ask if a traffic study was done. I had the same question. Have you, and I know you've alluded to there's a bus lot and there's this and that and the other, but specifically for your operations, as it relates to all these other neighboring.
There was a traffic study that was completed and submitted, I believe, in April, and
Okay.
Mr. Abuna is here to talk about it.
Okay, and nobody has spoken about that, so I'm just curious how you foresee the impact on neighboring businesses who may have a concern with trucks coming in and out, even though they're badged and there's security and all this stuff that you say is great and wonderful.
Sure.
It's still this is Wheeling, there's always a traffic problem, right?
I'll let him
So,
address it.
Please, thank you.
Good evening. Louis Abuna, A-B-O-O-N-A, principal with KLOA, 9575 West Higgins Road in Rosemont. So we did complete a traffic study that looked at the basically operations of Glen Avenue between Hints and Shepard, and we looked at both intersections of Glen and Hints and Glen and Shepard Avenue. See how they operate today, how much traffic they carry, and then what the impact would be this facility will have on those intersections. And you know, from what you heard, obviously, this facility will have all its operations contained within the site. All the truck maneuvers are going to be internal to the site, so trucks will enter and exit as a normal vehicle. There will be no back-end maneuvers, so no obstruction of traffic. The introduction of the access to the truck area on Glen will obviously reduce the impact on Shepard. That's a much tighter area. Obviously, the previous use on the site, all that, their truck traffic used Shepard Avenue, so their impact on Shepard was much higher. Our impact will be much reduced because most of the truck traffic will use Glen Avenue. You know, from the aspect of impact on the businesses, we don't see that as being significant. Impact on the area roadways or the intersections, again, this is not going to be a high traffic generator, both from passenger vehicles as well as truck traffic. You know, the study does point out that making a left out onto Hints can be difficult, particularly during the rush hour. You know, there are signals on both sides, east and west of Hints, that help break up the traffic and allow people to make a left in and left out and all the other movements. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Yeah, nobody had spoken to that, and I didn't see a traffic study in the packet, so I don't know if it was just something you had done, or if I just missed it, but.
We did the study in March, and I think copies were submitted.
Yeah, the study was submitted, staff reviewed it. There, as Mr. Abuna said, there's no.
New packet, got it. I gotcha.
There wasn't anything that, you know, that indicated, you know, any challenges with the proposed use, so.
Got it.
Didn't want to provide the.
Got it.
80 some odd pages.
Yep.
Document, so.
I
You've
love
seen
traffic
those.
studies, so I just want to go
I'll give
home
you
and
a
read
copy
one.
if you want.
Yeah, no, I will, no. I especially wanted, I had a question, but also someone had brought it up, that's a potential neighbor of yours, so I just want to,
Fair enough.
for the record of that. Okay. So you said that there's a key card system and security gates and things to monitor trucks coming in and out, so that was a question that I had. Okay, and then, gosh, why can't we get through a packet without talking about a trash enclosure?
Hey, it's got to be done.
I understand, and yeah, but it's just so exciting. So internal versus external trash enclosure, multiple people, you can't have it in one building. Are you okay with having a trash enclosure, which would be surrounded by brick, because that's our, preference as a village? Is that something you're willing to?
Are we gonna stamp our feet? No. But we would prefer not to have that, based upon the prior use and based upon, ease and convenience, but I'm not gonna stamp my feet.
Based upon prior use, like the Skokie
But
Beverage
Mr.
Company?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, none of that you can't carry that forward as it pertains to, is an existing code, doesn't it say that you have to, or do we not have to have an external for this? Was I confused?
It's not a requirement
Okay.
that there be an external trash container or container.
Or code, but.
Staff's just
Yes.
unsure if
preference.
that's reality. That's all.
Okay. So it's a bunch of trucking companies, and so are you suggesting that there's not much trash that would warrant the need for
Like I said,
a trash enclosure?
I'm not gonna make this an issue because we don't want it to be an issue.
Well,
We have a preference,
yeah.
but I'm not gonna argue about it.
Okay. I suppose we would, it'll be up to the commission to see if it's a preference of ours. I assume we'll poll, but it would probably make sense, just because that's congruent with what we do with every petitioner that comes, irrespective of what has happened in the past with a light. And I get your point of the past business is similar, they didn't have it, but today's a new day, and code is different. And well, it's not according to code, but it's just a preference of the village. I do not have any more questions.
Are you sure?
Thank you.
You sure?
I'll probably come back, especially now that you've challenged me.
Might get another chance. Commissioner Creech.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I was just reminded that inside the building, there's a garbage compactor, which I didn't know until just a second ago.
Where is it? I might as well ask.
Trash compactor is in the latest edition.
To the south?
Yes, to the south.
So
It's inside the building. We 80%, we cut down our garbage by 80% by recycling all the stretch wrap that came in. Every pallet was stretch wrapped, and all the cardboard. And then we, in turn, sold that to a recycling center. So our garbage was cut down by at least 80%, and that's why we're down to one recycling bin, which is actually, this is the one that I showed. It's in the front parking lot only because of security.
Okay, so in this drawing, it's in the Fresh Farm section, the one all the way in the south,
Correct.
the last edition? Okay. I would like to point out that when you had the building, it was one business, and now it's five. So there's a different impact on trash in that, so I can understand why you did it, a little bit different here, and why we have to have this conversation. So just to point that out, so.
Sure. Thank you.
So I won't say I have no further questions at this moment. Chairman, thank you.
Commissioner Creech, let's try again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Kalis, for asking about the trash disposal.
I knew you would if
I'm
I
usually the
didn't.
one that asks that question. I have a few questions. I guess my biggest concern right off the bat was the detention basin and the runoff of water, since this whole lot is pretty much going to be a parking lot. And it looks like it's going to be overland runoff on top of it. I saw that there was a detention basin on a couple of the other properties, and maybe it was designed for more than one spot, but who owns the detention basin, for one? What's the capacity of the detention basin? When we're closing off this new lot, is it going to be at what rate? And I guess that's, as far as the detention basin goes, those are my questions. Have we gotten any more engineering on that submitted? Has anything been submitted to?
Battle of the Engineers.
No.
Nothing yet? Okay.
No. This area was re-subdivided in, I think, 1977. And at that time, I don't remember exactly what the configuration was, but the property that's immediately south of Lot 1, as well as Lot 1 and Lot 2, the detention basin at that time when that re-subdivision was done was designed to accommodate all of the impervious flow that we've shown, plus what's there. So that detention basin serves two properties. I mean, we have the
Okay, so it doesn't include the Lot 1 then?
Yeah, it does include Lot 1. And it also includes the lot immediately south of Lot 1.
I'm confused because you're telling me that there's two lots, and
Okay,
then there's a lot south of that, so that's 3 lots, so I'm confused.
We have Lot 1 and Lot 2 is the current property that we're interested in. Pardon? Single ownership. Single ownership, yes, that's all single ownership. But the lot south of Lot 1 is owned by someone else. And the detention basin serves both of those properties.
All 3 lots?
So it's 3 lots, but 2 properties, because Lot 1 and Lot 2 are owned by one owner.
Correct.
So it serves Lot 1, Lot 2 on this site plan, as well as the property immediately south of Lot 1.
Yes.
Okay.
And we have the actual permits that include all the calculations and show what the flows are or were, or what they were anticipated to be.
From what year, though?
That was when it was for 1977, but it doesn't make a lot of difference. The regulations are the same. The detention regulations are the same.
Mr. Goldman?
It's not uncommon for commercial subdivisions like this to have detention pre-made in anticipation of future use. So it is entirely possible based on, and I haven't gotten a chance to look at the MWRD permits, but this detention basin very well likely could have a surplus in it currently with the anticipation that this parking lot be built. Exactly. We'll obviously, when we do the final engineering, we'll double check all the numbers, and when MWRD does their review, they'll obviously refer back to their old permits. So basically, yeah, and the release rates probably, we'll have to double check, but I don't know that the release rates have changed a whole lot, at least as far as the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District is concerned. So that can all be handled in final engineering to make sure it's compliant.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Excuse me, I'm looking at my notes here. Oh, so who owns the detention basin and maintains that?
From what it looked like there was an easement for that detention basin. I didn't read the provisions of that easement, but it looks like it could be, looks like it's on the property to the south, but because there's an easement, it looks like the property to the north, the property in question here, should be able to use it as well.
So it would be the responsibility of both of these properties to maintain and mow and whatever they have to do for this basin, keep it clean and up to capacity, I guess?
Ken Sherman again. The water retention pond in question there on the far south end of the property is owned by us and Tomagawa. We both have paid property taxes on that property. And that covers all of our property and their property. Does that answer?
So that's great.
It's jointly owned.
So it's jointly owned, so you would jointly maintain it?
Actually, we maintained it because.
Okay,
my
so
friends
they're
in
going to
village
maintain it and the
said-
other guys aren't anymore.
No, but if you
Or
let the
still.
grass grow and a wild bird flies in there, it's going to become wetland, and then it's not going to be a water retention pond. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh yeah, I know all about that.
So we always maintained to make sure that the grass was very short and the water would flow. There's actually concrete drains in that in that water retention.
I see that on the plans, but when I was looking at my packet, it shows it on the site plan, but not on the plat. So I guess that was where my question came from, who owned it and how did this work and, you know, what was left in it. But since you explained already that it was already figured for that, because this area is prone to, you know, flooding. The village spent a lot of money on, you know, the park district and everything, so I was just concerned about that. So thank you. Most of those questions have been asked for me. And when Kyle gets all that information, then staff will know too.
Thank you.
Thank you. The two rental agreements that you referred to, are those part of the record?
No. Right now, it's based on our representation. They're not rental agreements, they're LOIs that we have with Fresh Farm and that we have with Argus. They're right now proprietary, but we're making that representation.
Okay, and then the other one would be the agreements for the potential tenants for the storage, parking storage.
What I thought I said is that these guys are interested in doing this now. I don't know, do we have LOIs for Kamaz and Seal? I think we have for Seal. And do we
No, I was talking about for the individual tenants that are going to be renting spots, potentially excess spots. No, it's the contract. Is that part of the record as well? For what you're asking from each individual owner-operator, if they want to use your spot, do you have a copy of that contract that you make with them? A lease with them? Yeah.
No, it's not. But we're not that far. We have LOIs. We haven't got beyond the LOIs.
Well, she mentioned that, you know, that she was going to...
I said each lease would have that. I don't, that's...
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You said that they were going to have it, so I was just wondering if we had a copy of that.
We do not.
Okay. I think that would be important as well.
Sure.
This is a relatively 50-plus-year-old building from its inception with 4 or 5 additions. You have a truck wash, you have maintenance. Are you planning, what kind of upgrades are planned on this partial going forward?
Other than building it out to accommodate the tenants, there are no upgrades that are contemplated.
Okay, so I guess the truck car wash and the repair bay and everything like that would...
Those are operational?
Would be, up to staff as far as the code for whatever they need for that?
Yes.
Okay. And then my last question, you were talking about each driver was going to have a remote control device to get in and out?
Key card.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would Wheeling Police Department have a key card for them to get in and out if they desire?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Commissioner Creech, I wasn't sure if there was a miscommunication or whatever, just so I wanted to be clear. When you were talking about leases and individual leases, were you interested in whether or not there would be individual leases of truck parking spaces or of the building?
No, the truck parking spaces.
Okay. Dan, do you want to clarify that?
I understood it a different way.
Okay.
There would be leases with the tenants.
Yes.
And within those leases with the tenants, it would say Fresh Farm gets 19 spaces.
Correct.
Argus gets 30 spaces.
Okay.
And so that would be delineated in the leases.
But if there's any other empty spaces and they were going to lease it to individual owner-operators?
No.
There can't be any.
None at all? Okay.
No trucks outside of tenants will be allowed on the site.
Okay.
Okay? That's what we wanted to
I was
make clear.
confused by her statement then. Maybe it was my mistake.
Okay, I apologize, and I hope we made it clear both tonight and in our narrative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that all, Commissioner Creech?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I thought I said.
Commissioner
Sorry.
Bonova?
Thank you. Is there going to be any advertisement of that vehicle repair, like a sign or anything like that, that's visible from outside?
I don't, well, I mean, if it would be only, I suppose, directional, but we're not taking people from outside, so there'd be no reason to have it. But it would be, it could be for directionals, I don't know.
Just like for inside, but nothing will be visible outside. Still, if they don't take any parking spaces for truck repair, so there is no ability for them even to operate it and serve other trucks. So it makes more sense now. Then, just a moment. What was the gate, that ornamental gate that you were talking about?
The ornamental gate. Staff asked us to show a cut sheet and a little example of the ornamental gate. We haven't done that, not because we're not willing to, we didn't get around to it, and so we are willing, Steve's laughing, we are willing to have that as a condition to make sure there's an ornamental gate.
Can I use that next time you're asking me for something? I didn't get around to it.
I'm sorry. The dog ate my homework.
That's all other concerns were already answered. Thank you.
Just there's a breath of fresh air for honesty tonight, that's all I'm going to say.
Commissioner Yednick?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I'm confused, it's not really important, but the ownership then, so, and I don't have all the names, I apologize, but Skokie Valley, the family is sold the business, you're also selling the building, so who is going to be the new building owner then? Okay, so you're representing like...
The contract purchaser for the building, that's correct.
Okay, all right.
And that's JV Global?
Correct.
Pardon?
Thank you. JV Global.
Okay, all right, so you were...
And a
JV
tenant.
Global.
They will be
Okay.
owner and a tenant.
All right, then, so I had concerns about the flood control, but I think we've covered that. But I did have one question. The 25% green space requirement, is that in the village code, is that an aesthetic? This is more of a staff question. Is that an aesthetic requirement, or is that also like a flood control requirement?
It's more of a flood control as well as a preventative measure to not allow properties to go from property line to property line. So there's setbacks that also do that, but those are related to buildings and parking lots. But another regulation control to not overdevelop the property is to have an open space requirement. So it kind of does a twofold thing. It regulates stormwater runoff by not paving too much of the property, and it also allows for the development to develop properly on the site without going to the extreme limits of the property.
Okay, but then if we look at what we're calling Lot 2, I think we got maybe like 2 or 3 bushes on Lot 2. We don't have 1% green space. So
Right.
is that prior to the existing code?
Yeah, given the lineage that was provided, that was developed, as we advance in understandings of development and stormwater and everything, more regulations come into place that we learn from that. So most likely that open space requirement wasn't in place at the time that the Lot 2 portion was developed.
Okay, well, to me, the petitioners have testified that they've studied the flood control, and I was concerned that you put in a lot of asphalt, and I remember when I grew up in the city, they built a lot of developments around us, and our basement started flooding. But, they've said that they've studied this, and we're not removing the existing detention basin that's supposed to serve these properties, so I'm not as concerned about that. But I didn't know if 25% was an aesthetic issue, and then we're talking about an industrial area. I did have some questions about the internal configuration, which I think was called the floor plan. Yeah, now it's up.
If we all go like this, you can see.
Yeah, well, I got it in the right orientation on my screen. Sealed transportation, then, are they landlocked, or is there actually a north door on that? I was trying to figure out from the pictures. They look like they're landlocked.
There's a north overhead door that provides direct access to Shepard. You can see here in the site
Yeah,
plan
I
here.
did, I thought I spotted that, but it was hidden by the 3 bushes that are on the. Okay, then also the JV Global that's going to do the truck service and wash. So the pictures that were shared earlier of the existing service bays and wash station, that seemed like that was more than 5,000 square feet, unless I'm doing a bad estimate. So are those the pictures that are in this existing 5,300 square feet that JV Global's taking over? Or are you going to be giving up some of that spot to the tenants? Well, he showed the.
Yeah, I know the question, I'm just not sure of the answer, so maybe Ashley? Okay, go ahead, please.
JV's going to take exactly what the previous owner had, so we're not moving walls.
Okay, so the wash station is not in a different part of the building?
No,
and
it's right next to
The
it.
bay is not in a different,
No,
that's
it's
all the
all
truck,
in one.
all the truck maintenance was in with that 5,300 square feet?
Correct.
Okay. That's packed into a lot. I looked like it was more
Yeah,
than
they're all next to
5,300
each
square
other.
feet, but okay. Then I guess, I think we do need to address the trash control then, because like Commissioner Kalis pointed out, that if you're going to section off the tenants, you're no longer going to be able to have, everybody's not going to have access unless they're going to share the compactors. And then I don't know how it works when you have multiple tenants, sharing. Do they all have to have individual trash facilities, or, we are talking about going from one occupant to 5+, because there's still some office space that haven't even leased out yet.
Ultimately, it's up to the owner and the tenants to monitor their trash collection and work out whatever requirements that Waste Management has, or whatever service providing options that Waste Management has. So if they're able to handle and manage all the trash internally, that is sufficient from the zoning code perspective. Obviously, if the trash enclosure goes, or if the trash containers go outside, then they have to be screened with an enclosure. So, they're indicating that they can manage the trash collection and distribution or whatever internally. It'll be upon them to manage that sufficiently and work out whatever agreements they need to with Waste Management.
Okay, so we're not doing a site, I was just looking back, we're not considering a site appearance on this petition?
As of right now, there aren't any modifications to the building, and there aren't anything exterior proposed.
So I guess trash would be out of our purview then, at this point?
I mean, that's one of the things we're bringing up. Staff is not really confident that that's, having multiple tenants and the building being split up, if that lends itself to allowing the trash to be monitored by each individual tenant, or, similar to a, commercial, multi-tenant commercial center or an apartment building where you have a central trash collection system. Those are there for reasons, and we think that now that this is going to a multi-tenant, that may seem like a more logical approach than doing it internally and leaving it up to each tenant.
Right, yeah, that's kind of where I was going.
Steve, didn't you have potentially a draft for coming back for the appearance of anything?
Yes, if the Plan Commission adds that condition onto any motion, then the petitioner will just need to return at a later date to show what the enclosure, where the location is and where the enclosure, and the appearance of the enclosure, much to the appeasement of Commissioner Kalis. We could talk about it again and discuss it.
I don't talk about it because I want to, Steve. That's my job.
So if that is a requirement, then they would just simply return and.
Well, I mean, is it out of our, I guess the question is it out of our, if I was a tenant, I guess I would want to have something that was convenient to me, and I would want to maybe have my own facilities. I don't know if the tenants would all pay their own trash rate or whether that's part of their lease, where it's gonna, and I don't know how that works, or if that's really not in under our scope of authority.
The zoning code and I believe as well as the authorities of the Plan Commission can't really force a business to have it inside or outside. It's only when it does go outside, then the appearance and the code requirement of screening and the appearance.
So they have to figure out how to keep their tenants happy. That's up to them. Okay.
Yes, and if it does move outside, then they would have to return and go through site plan appearance review.
That's all I had.
Is it? Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In honor of Trustee Vito, I'm just going to say I don't think they need a bike rack. Let's see. So is Fresh Farms moving from an existing location into this one? And I had the same question about Argus, because I know where Argus is located in the village. Are they moving everything from their location to here, or is this an additional location for them?
These both are expansions.
So they're going to remain where they are now and expand? Okay. Yes. The JV Global office, it's not going to be an office, so there's going to be what are there, like going to be like 3 bay doors for this thing? One's going to be truck maintenance, one's going to be for the wash, and there's going to be another one. I mean, there will be no offices in there. It's strictly going to be the truck wash, which the gentleman showed, the maintenance where they did the oil changes. So that whole 5,300 square feet, it's going to be nothing but truck wash and maintenance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Oh, okay. One little tiny office, a little paperwork.
Okay, that's
creating trash, of
that's
course.
fine. And then the northernmost one says offices. Is that for future use, or is that for any one of the tenants? There's going to be like cubicles or something set up in that area.
For any one of the tenants to share.
Okay. So just so I understand a little bit more, can you explain to me more of how Kamaz and Seal Transportation, how their operation works? Because, and then maybe explain to me too, again, I know it was mentioned about the traffic flow, so the truck traffic flow. So I know you're going to have a gate off of Glen, and I think somebody said that all the truck traffic for these tenants are going Glen to Shepard and then in through the north. Is that right? Or could they potentially, any employees, I assume, to get into the employee parking lot? So there will be nobody except for people, trucks who have their key cards, be able to get in off of Glen. Anybody else who doesn't have a leased spot in that truck parking lot, everybody else is coming north, Glen to Shepard, and then in through the north. Is that right?
Everybody who is not a tenant?
Well, no.
They don't belong in our property.
Employees.
Well, I guess Argus. So, well, you know, some like Kamaz and Seal, they're going to have truck bays, right? There's going to be people backing in. I assume Argus and Fresh Farms, they're going to have like doors on the building, right, where they get back a trailer in. So when they come in, are they going to be coming in from the north, or are they going to be going through the parking lot?
From the Glen.
All of them, all from Glen, so they're going to be coming in through the new gate.
Right, that makes sense, right?
I'm trying to figure out just what the truck,
Does it matter? Can they come in both?
I don't care. Can we go to Steve, can you go up one page, or?
The traffic study.
Yeah, right there. So can you, is everybody coming in through the new gate there, or are they going up the street, making a left and coming in through Shepard on the north side?
They can come through both.
Can come through both? Okay.
How was the study done?
So can you explain to me a little bit more about Kamaz and Seal? How do their operations actually work, since they're a truck freight terminal? Can you explain to me?
Sure.
Because I know we have truck freight terminals on Chaddock, you know, like Yellow and stuff, so I assume these will be similar. So how do these, and we said there would be no trucks stored in the buildings. So I assume that, I don't even know, could they even get in the building, or I assume there's a total overhead door, but, so how do they take deliveries? How does the freight stuff, if a truck were to come and utilize one of these facilities, he would stay outside, and then what would happen? Would a forklift come, take some stuff out, put it in there? How does that work?
Exactly, yeah, there are going to be some forklifts involved. KAMAZ is a third-party transportation, so they deliver goods from point A to point B. So they would need offices, they have their own trucks, so they would be needing the parking lot as well that comes with the square footage that they will rent from the building. They do need a warehouse to consolidate their goods.
So they would be managing freight, pallets in, pallets out, preparing certain deliveries, so somebody comes in and they just say, oh, that stacks for me, load it up?
Correct, yeah, like 5 pallets here, 2 pallets here. Sometimes they need it, sometimes they don't, so it depends on the order.
Okay, and so same thing goes for Seal, right?
Yes.
Same type of operation?
Seal does that, and they're also a brokerage company, so.
So are these additional sites for them also? For Seal and?
Yes, Seal is separate, KAMAZ is separate.
But are those in addition to what they already have? Or are these brand new?
They're brand new to Village of Wheeling.
Brand new to the Village of Wheeling. Do they currently exist somewhere else too?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Ron, do you have any concerns with the fire department turning radiuses and the water main and all of that stuff? Or that all it's going to be addressed later?
Those were part of the comments we had, and those would be items that would be looked at during the construction phase.
Okay. So I did read about the easternmost part of Lot 1, and there was the concern about the overhang. So I was trying to decide what was decided there. It wasn't to put stops there, was it to put a curb inside of that gate so the trucks would not overhang like towards, near the fence or over the fence? What was decided with that?
I understand what the comment was. Instead of truck stops, which staff believed could be prone to deterioration, staff wanted a curb to be placed a little bit inward or west so that there would not be potential damage to the fence.
So that would be inside the fence line on the east, enough to where a curb would be put inside that easternmost fence.
Yes.
Enough to stop a truck from going into the fence.
Enough to prevent damage. We asked for truck stops. Staff is asking for a curb. It's I think it's an issue regarding wear and tear. Would that be fair to say, Steve?
Correct, yeah. There's, the new parking lot is curbed all the way around. That's a requirement of the code that they're curbing. So there is a curb between the fence and those eastern row parking stalls.
Okay.
Staff's concern was that if the curb was too close to the fence, the truck could back up and wait for a visual signal or a signal, his wheels hit the back of the curb and now I need to stop, but
rather than a crunch of the fence.
It's going to hit the fence then. So we said, move the curb from where it is now a little bit further, so it'll create just a larger green space, basically, allow for the overhang.
Okay, that's fine.
Won't get back up to 25%, but it will increase the green space.
So this will basically be for all the tenants in there for the most part, trucks coming in and out 24/7, right?
Well, we did identify hours of operation.
Yeah, but, okay.
And those were...
So Seal and JV Global, you said there's nothing going to be happening there after 5 and after, Seal and KAMAZ, nothing after 6 or 8 in the evening?
That's what we said.
Okay. But the usage of the actual parking lot, lot one, that usage, that's by key card, and that could be 24/7,
Well,
right?
can there be a truck that's stored there or stays there overnight? Yeah, of course.
But I
That's
mean,
part of
would
the
somebody be coming in there, could somebody potentially come in there at 3 a.m, swipe their card and say, hey, I gotta get in, and it lets them in? I assume that's possible,
I
right?
assume that's possible.
Okay. And we're not putting any, as far as staff, I guess, we're not putting any, or there's not any kind of stipulations going into the lot, like as far as a truck only staying there 2 days versus somebody staying there 5 days. That's pretty much, there's no stipulation about length of stay for any particular vehicle, right?
What was identified in the project description letter was that it would be more than 48 hours, but no more than 5 days.
5 consecutive days.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what we would use as the, timeframe.
For outdoor storage.
Right, correct.
For under the umbrella of outdoor storage.
Storage, right.
Within 48 hours, it doesn't require any other special accommodations or entitlements, as I understand.
Okay. So one of my next question is snow removal. What are you doing with that? Do you have a plan?
I don't think we do. Are we showing any areas well, how do you guys move snow before? Haul it out?
They don't have a fence, but.
Where are you going to deposit it
They
if
had a
you're
whole empty
using?
lot to dump it in, though.
Yeah.
That's true. Thank you. Thank you. I don't have a plan. We don't show any designated spots for where snow would go, but we do haul it out where and when necessary.
Yeah, I think,
Typically, that's when petitioner comes in, they block off a few spots.
Correct. And that's something that.
I think you guys
make a
need to
plan
think
for that.
about that and identify
Yeah,
where your
and
snow
I think it's a
removal.
great suggestion.
Yeah.
Commissioner Powers, you're the first person in the last 8 months to have brought that up. So thank you.
I wrote it
for
down, that was
bringing
an
up.
extra question. I
You get
had.
credit too.
Yeah, I was coming back to you.
But we can always put snow in certain parking spots for storage or haul it out.
Okay, so really the last comment I have is, I think you're going to need some kind of external trash closure, because I worry about, like, if you're doing truck maintenance, you could have batteries, tires, and all that other stuff. How are you going to dispose of that?
Can't put that in the garbage anyway.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean...
Yeah, right, that's right. It has to be specially removed.
removal, yeah.
But do you need some type of special enclosure for that? Is that kept inside? Does a company come and take the stuff away? How do you get rid of it? And you got oil too. Yeah.
Every company that we dealt with, we used to buy tires in quantity and get down to the point where they'll deliver them whenever you need them. We'd order, instead of ordering 50 or 60 tires, we'd order 10 or 12. They take the carcasses back. Well, first of all, we did retread all trailer tires. And you get 2 or 3 more lives out of those at a fourth of the price. And batteries, they'll deliver 5 days a week if they have an opportunity. The bigger trucks have 3 batteries. The smaller trucks or forklifts have 1. We would keep one set for each type of vehicle, and when it had to be replaced, they'd call the company, they'd come out, they'd deliver and take the old ones back. And you do pay a recycling fee on the tires and the batteries. Everything was done above board because you cannot put a battery or oil or tire like that in the garbage.
You had oil reclamation as well?
Yes. And we have fuel, 25,000 gallons of fuel on the property.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, yeah, I saw the gas pump there too. That's going to.
That up.
So that's going to stay?
Those are off the code. They were replaced not too long ago. They're up to the EPA standards. They're computerized. If there is a 1/4 of an inch of water in it, it'll tell you. You pump it out, and then it's a tank within a tank. So if the first one leaks, we did it all with the fire department. Double, correct? And they're computerized, which they never were in years ago. They were not. But they're all computerized. Everything, you push a button, it'll tell you exactly what's in the tank, how much you can add to it. And again, you make a phone call, you get a truckload the next day. You didn't have to keep a lot, but you had to keep it above a certain level so that the tank, which I know it happens, will pop out of the ground if it's too low.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Shapiro, will these tenants be utilizing that fuel facility? I'm just,
Yeah, and only the tenants. Only the tenants would be able to.
Okay.
Fuel tax?
We can't take bribes.
I think that's all I have for now.
All right, thank you.
Not for public.
And that leaves me.
Trash enclosure?
Trash enclosure. Yeah, I don't know how waste management, as long as we brought that up, I don't know how waste management would feel about having 5 different tenants each bringing out.
It's interesting because I was just speaking to Mr. Starr, Jerry Starr, who owns Argus, and as Jerry just explained it to me, they have these big totes, and the totes are on wheels so they can be portable, and they're inside. So maybe the waste management assessment here would be that each tenant gets one of those totes. They can remain inside, and the totes are taken outside for waste management to pick up. But maybe we just wait for that assessment to happen before we come to a conclusion whether an exterior trash enclosure is required or necessary or not.
So we can make some sort of condition that trash enclosures pending review by waste management?
They would need a building, it would require a building permit for trash enclosure, so we wouldn't be able to issue one until it came through Plan Commission
Right.
for site plan appearance review. So it's kind of a code requirement.
Kind of a catch-22 situation here.
So if I'm hearing you correctly,
I think we're leaning towards a common trash enclosure for all the tenants, but if waste management is okay with
say
something else.
interior.
Yeah, and everybody's responsible for getting it out, and are they gonna pick it up in 5 different places on property? I don't know.
Okay, so,
Yeah, we can, I'll talk with Valerie, and you can continue to.
Okay. I went by the site yesterday. There was a truck parked on Glen Avenue, and Glen is only 2 lanes. I don't know how much that's gonna happen. You know, truck pulls up, and the guy's looking for his key card and doesn't have it or whatever. How long is he gonna sit there? It's not a really big street to have trucks parked on. So I'm a little concerned about that part of the traffic. In your little chart here, Argus, you've got 30 trucks. That'll come up
Speaking of
here.
We're taking the.
We don't want the people at home to miss anything.
There's a wireless
There's a
mic
wireless
if you want
mic
it.
there.
Yeah, you can use the wireless one right there
Or
too.
whatever. He's here now.
He's there.
I don't mind. Back in 1989, the Village of Wheeling posted signs they passed an ordinance that there was no parking on either side of the street in the entire subdivision.
So I should have called a cop then. I guess.
Well, no, I'm just saying that they're not allowed to,
Okay,
there is no parking allowed on either side of the street.
okay. I missed that sign. I'll admit it.
I parked next to the no parking on the street.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
No,
behind
the
you.
gentleman behind you has a comment, since he's the neighbor.
So we ran into this my company's Swiss Precision Machining, and we came from Niles 2 years ago, and we were right by a Coca-Cola distribution center, and so they had the same exact signs that said no parking, no anything, but the trucks would actually idle there and wait to go in. So that's one of our biggest concerns. I mean, we're all for this, but our biggest concern is what's going to stop them from idling, and then if someone's occupying the repair and maintenance or the washing, are the trucks going to go in and wait in the facility, or are they going to be allowed to idle on the street?
Okay. We'll see what they say.
The answer is no. We don't want them idling on the street. You don't want them idling on the street. We don't want to get in trouble. There's no idling. You know, can anything happen at any time? Of course. But it's going to be something that, you know, rules of the road to tell our truckers you can't do this. And they're going to be told they can't do it.
Okay, while we're on the subject of getting in and out of the property, you mentioned they have the option of coming in off of Glen or coming in off of Shepard. Is there a gate going to be for the trucks coming in off Shepard as well?
There's no point in having a gate on Glen if there's not one on Shepard, right?
Huh?
Well, they can have a key card. There is one there now? Okay.
Well, yeah, right now it's a manual chain link.
He's back. That's what they're saying.
But is it going to be a key card?
That goes across from the building to the
Yeah,
end
but
of the
isn't that
property.
just chain link
Correct.
fencing?
Chain link with barbed wire.
It's a
Motorized though?
motorized gate?
It's not motorized.
Oh,
We didn't motorize. It
Well, that's what I'm referring to, because the other one's going to be motorized with the key card.
can easily be done.
Okay,
We'll put an electronic one.
okay.
And
Mr.
with the
Adler is
truck
very
parking,
familiar.
we didn't allow any drivers to wait on the street either.
Right.
They had to, we made enough area in the back where all trucks, if they had to idle, whatever, because you cannot shut a truck down as soon as you stop. You have to let it idle for a while and turn it off. They all waited in our back parking lot until a dock came open or became open. Then they would proceed into that loading dock and be unloaded.
What back parking dock, what back parking lot is that? Is that next to the empty,
You see where it says Avenue?
yeah,
That whole area is where we made it large enough so that a 54-foot trailer could turn around and back into a spot while he was waiting to be unloaded.
but that's going to become your employee parking now too, isn't it? Part of that, or no, it's the truck parking and the employee parking is strictly in the proposed truck trailer parking area? Or I thought isn't the employee parking going to encroach into that area, that waiting area?
The employee
Yeah, I think.
parking was where that word avenue was, to the north.
But for the
For
current
cars.
plan, but for now JV Global's plan, that's
Yeah,
going to
that
be
area's gonna be
dedicated
gone.
parking.
I'm not sure what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, and now, you got Argus having 30 trucks. Where are those trucks now? And I'll ask the same question of Fresh Farms. You say they have, they need 19.
They're idling on
I'm
some
going to answer on
street.
behalf of
Yeah,
Jerry.
where are they parked on the street now?
Well, particular, Jerry's company, Argus Plastic, he has a facility in the city, right? You drive. They go in and out and move the product from Wheeling to Chicago.
Jerry right now has about a half a dozen trucks, but the product is moved with not just his trucks.
Okay,
So what's going to be happening is there's going to be, because of the expansion, there's going to be, we say Jerry's trucks, Jerry's designated spaces, up to 30 spaces to accommodate not only his trucks, but other trucks that will be coming in and out to deliver the recycled materials, also known as plastic.
but all these other truck companies are gonna have your key cards and
They're employed by
have access?
Argus, yeah.
They're employees of Argus, but they're not Argus
The
trucks.
third party deliver, I mean, they do delivery for him.
Like agents.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
All right.
They're like agents. I
Like
don't
if
know.
you can't handle all your deliveries yourself, you hire another company to do it for you. Everybody does.
So the answer is yes. Whoever is
UPS
going to be
does
using
it.
the driving that truck will get a key card for security purposes.
For the most part, they're delivering or picking up, and they're not staying there.
That's correct.
So the odds of them needing 30 actual spaces on the property?
At one time, no. It's not, that's at one time needing 30 spaces, no. But up to 30 spaces at different times, sure, because you might have some trucks that aren't going to be in and out. They might be there for 2 days. Some trucks could be there for 3 days. So it's using the designated spaces to offer the most flexibility for the type of distribution that's going to be going on.
I'm just questioning because, you got a layout here showing 84 spaces, and remarkably, the number of trucks on the chart equals 84 spaces. So
Well, it wasn't a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. What we really tried to drill down on is, okay, given your business and given this tenant, what would be the best estimate of the number of spaces that you will need? Not like at one time necessarily, but the number of spaces. And that's what we had. So, yes, 84 spaces, and then we looked at each of the tenants to determine what would be the best guesstimate of the number of spaces they would need, up to the number of spaces they would need.
But how did you distinguish? You said that you were going to register the trucks and all of that, right? So it could be 30 spaces, but how many trucks are you could register like 100 trucks, right?
Any truck that comes in the property is going to be identified. Any truck that comes into the business, and I don't know, I'm just going to ask this out loud, would that be a requirement of your insurance?
Of course. Insurance.
Maybe, I don't know, but it's a liability issue.
But whoever.
It's also an
parks
accountability issue.
that Parking lot, in and out, things can happen. But whoever parks in that parking lot, I need to know who they are, where they come from, what's the company, who's the owner, if they're a tenant, all these ABCDs, they need to meet.
Plus, we have the video cameras that also provide backup to that information.
You can't say, oh, I'm in town, I'm out of town, I have the spot, why don't you go ahead and park? No.
But if the guy has a key card, he could just put the key card and
That's
gate
why-
opens and goes, but then at some point you're going to nail him, hopefully, saying,
That's
hey,
why
you
we
shouldn't be here.
respect and we follow the requirements,
No, I'm
but
just
I have my own
No,
as
that's
a company
fine.
owner.
I understand.
So if you drive around neighboring cities, you see some of these truck parking, and you come to have it as much as we like it or we dislike it, it's so much nicer.
That's fine, I appreciate the answer, that's fine,
We went on and beyond with gates, with securities.
that's fine,
We need to know who is on my property.
Mhm.
Anything can happen.
sure.
Okay. Now, Fresh Farms, 19 trucks, okay. How is that not a freight terminal in their case? Because obviously things are being delivered and they're then turning them around and taking them to their stores. Is that not a freight
As
terminal?
I understand freight terminal, and we went back and forth with this, and Steve, you're going to have to help me, because my head.
You couldn't help me
My
yesterday.
head spins every once in a while.
Doesn't look good.
Let me get my- Part of what's going on with Fresh Farms is distribution warehouse facility. That's permitted as a matter of right under your zoning ordinance. So that activity that Fresh Farm and Argus would be taking on is permitted, which includes trucks going in and out.
And Argus is also doing some manufacturing in this space, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Inside.
Right.
So those are permitted uses.
Right.
So what we asked for is, just to be sure, ask for truck outdoor storage for those two, just to be sure. Now, as I understand those permitted uses, the outdoor storage for trucks is contemplated as part of that permitted use. So even though the trucks may be there for 2 minutes or 2 days, under what's contemplated, and again, please correct me, staff, if I'm wrong, what's contemplated under that permitted use is for trucks to be there. But we're asking above and beyond just to make sure that we're compliant with the special use so that the village can have more controls for outdoor storage for those two, what would otherwise be permitted uses. I hope that answers. It is, we've gone back and forth, and it is not easy because there are different definitions. Actually, in midstream, we kind of shifted gears a little bit because it is complicated. I hope that helps.
Well, it goes back though to then the key cards and, okay, Fresh Farms is getting half a truckload of lettuce that they're gonna put in the coolers. Is that guy gonna have a key card so he can make delivery? Or the dairy is bringing stuff?
I would suspect there would be some sort of, yeah, I was gonna say, I would suspect that'd be something that we would work out with Fresh Farms. The point is to maintain some sort of accountability and security. I'm talking off the top of my head, but we would work that with Fresh Farms and say, okay, you guys have 19 key cards. You know, and each truck that comes in here must use a key card. I mean, it's a matter of working out with them. We're just trying to offer what we hope to be security with the key card to gate it. You get it. But the answer to your question is, yeah. I mean, the guy who comes in gets a key card. And if you don't have a key card, you can't come through the gate.
Well, you're gonna have to have some kind of intercom or something.
Maybe.
To call in and say, hey, I'm here.
Or, you know what? Guy can call on their cell phone too. So guy can say, I'm here. You know, bottom line is, you don't have a key card to get in, you don't get in.
Okay, it just seems like it's gonna be tough.
Great example would be Richelieu. That's renting our spots.
Who?
Richelieu Foods.
Oh, okay.
The pizza place right across from Abbott. They have, Vlad, what, 200 trucks? They manage it. They use the clicker every single time they come into my property. So how they do it, how they run it, it's up to them, but we only give them X amount of openers.
Would you also say that a freight terminal is a lot more intense operations than an Argus and a Fresh Farm would be as far as movement?
Probably.
So that could be a distinguishment too, right? Between the freight, between like a freight, because I know Chairman Johnson asked the question too, and that was kind of interesting. Is, well, isn't this kind of like the same use, but maybe it's the intensity of the use that's what differentiates it. I don't know.
Part of the freight terminal, as far as I understand the zoning ordinance, is the operations to have logistics or dispatch. So I think that's what maybe is a distinguishing factor, that we can think about it in that context as one special use. And then you got the permitted use for Argus, Fresh Farm, and then you have the special use for truck maintenance. That's at least how we organize our thoughts, perhaps to help you.
Steve or Andrew, anything else on the freight terminal thing?
It's a scarier title than it is the use.
Well, I'm just trying to compare it to the other ones where you're asking for freight terminal, where it seems like Fresh Farms is the same thing.
Well,
you're taking from one truck.
Because there's not any dispatching
around.
going on for trucks. Fresh Farms is just distribution warehouse.
Okay.
And as is Argus. The other Kamaz and Seal have more dispatching logistics component to it.
On the layout, floor layout. Yeah. Now, does Seal have any access other than the north entryway that they have? Like, can they get to the employee parking without having to walk all the way around to the front of the building, or?
How does Seal get in?
Is there another entrance that they can get to their space?
seal gate to those people? Where are the doors?
Not the same.
Yeah, they've got a garage door up front, but
That corner
And then
is
to
all
all the way-
offices, cubicles, so there's 3 entrances.
You're talking
Where it
about the
says
trucks, or you're
office?
talking about the people?
yeah, to move trash, for example, if it comes to them having to go to a common place.
They can come in through the main entrance, right where it says office on the top left corner. You have a couple entrances there. There's cubicles now, there are offices now, you can go all the way around. There's also, do you
The far
see,
left.
on Shepard, there's a garage door, right?
Right,
So you can
right,
get in
I know that.
You can-
I was just wondering if there was any access, like, can they walk through the truck maintenance area or anything like that?
No,
Is that-
because truck area is all
Okay.
walled up.
All right, I was just curious on that.
But they have their own, offices have their own, these guys have their own, and this one has.
They can get to the
none.
offices, but they can't get to the truck area because that's sealed off, as is Kamaz.
Let's see, we answered the fuel pumps will remain, those are both diesel? You got 2 pumps there? Yeah, just,
One was gasoline, one was
One is,
so there's 2 tanks underground then, okay. One of the things I was talking with staff about is the type of fence going around that large parking lot. And, normally we do push for wooden fences, but in this case, I'm thinking something more like what FedEx has around theirs. It's visible, it's not gonna be a solid wall. I don't know if we have any kind of picture of that you can pull up, but,
that's something we prefer, visible.
What does FedEx have? What kind of?
Other way
No,
around.
it gives for security purposes.
Oh.
it's,
I'm sorry, Chairman, I'm not familiar with that.
yeah, it's more like a wrought iron fence, but it looks really nice there, and yeah, I know I'm going against what we've been saying for years on board and everything, but, it really looks good over there. I think we've got some other places.
If it's cheaper, we're all for it.
I don't know if it's cheaper, because it is metal.
If it's more expensive, we're not for it.
Going with the honesty thing, thank you.
Yeah, but it's something to look at, and, and obviously, they're very concerned with security too.
Commissioner Creech, are you aware of what FedEx has, what it's called?
As a matter of fact, I haven't seen it.
Okay. But you would know if you did.
Probably.
Would it be appropriate for us to work with staff on what we're talking about at a later date?
Yeah, if you want.
Oh,
No. See, that space is pretty open right now.
Is this where you're talking?
So, Chairman, why do you feel that
That's
would
what
be
they have
better?
around all their truck parking area.
Preference of aesthetics? Chairman Johnson, what about that is better? The aesthetics, or just because it's such a large
Durability,
run?
aesthetics.
When you drive down the street, that looks a lot more appealing than
But you could see through it, right?
yeah.
But I mean, it's not like it's, Dundee Road or anything, so.
Right. It would make the space look a little more open, I guess. But I have no idea what the difference in cost would be on that. So, something to look at, I guess, at this point. And maybe just, I don't know, halfway, nah, I hate to mix it halfway.
Nah.
If you're gonna do it all the way. How much truck repair work are you envisioning? Is this a daily, you're always gonna have some trucks in the
Will
shop?
be open daily, all depends, because Because we can only service tenants that are
Right.
present at that location, so. Hope they break off. I mean, I did say that out loud, but we're really.
Can't answer. Whatever, as needed.
That made me think, why do we have to do a site plan approval for that? Because they're already doing maintenance, so aren't they? They said that they already have the maintenance facility, they're already doing truck maintenance, so how is this a change?
It's not site plan, it'd be a special use, because it's a new
Well, isn't
users and the tenants.
Aren't they, because it's a new owner? But they're already doing maintenance.
Since they're not, since it's not in a previous scenario, the previous situation where it was a single tenant providing services to themselves.
Okay.
Now it's essentially functioning like a
Kind of like a
business.
standalone business? Okay,
Correct,
okay,
yes.
okay, gotcha,
Oh, a standalone business with limited customer base.
gotcha.
I think that's
So
about
then-
all I had. So most of the delivery coming out of the 4 truck-related delivery processes, they're all pretty much local delivery. It's not, they
What's local?
over-the-road hauling or,
Well,
like Fresh Farms, I mean,
They're all based out of Illinois.
how many places does Fresh Farms have?
5, and
5?
I think there's one more coming up,
Okay.
maybe?
But they're all local.
They all local, they all Chicago, Niles.
They're not Walgreens.
No.
Sure, yeah.
So for the truck trade terminal aspects with, how it involve, you said there's gonna be no trucks inside, but the sorting, the terminal operations, the hauling, the unloading, is all that going to be done inside, that terminal aspect of it? I think
Yeah.
that was the
Yeah.
staff concern, that the proposed condition would be that it all needs to be done inside and in
So
which
what we're
units.
envisioning is that the truck pulls up to the dock, and then everything goes inside.
Okay,
All right, from the dock in, from the
Yes.
door in. Yeah.
okay, and I think that was one of the questions in the staff report about the truck trade terminal, so I just wanted to clarify it for the record.
All right, any further questions from the commission?
I just have a point of clarification. I need the variance for the green space, that goes with the use, not the land, is that correct? Like, in the future, if someone else comes in, they have to come for a special use and.
The variance would run with the land, and so if the property was sold, that variance would remain as long as the parking lot remains.
Okay,
The parking lot down the road the property could come back into compliance if a new owner decides they don't need as much parking.
Get rid of
and
it,
remove
yeah.
it,
Okay.
but that would run with the land rather than the use.
beyond this tenant, okay.
Yes.
But again, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, that
What you're going to.
paving was contemplated when the detention pond
Yeah.
was constructed.
I get it.
Mr. Creech, you have something?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back to the fuel tanks. You're going to be using the fuel tanks and selling fuel, gas, and diesel to the tenants?
Yes,
So.
just like it was done before.
Is that part of a truck repair or a service center?
I believe
Fuel
that's permitted.
sales?
I believe that's permitted in
That
your
wouldn't-
I-3, and I have the chart.
Yeah, I'm just questioning.
Yeah, I
Because it
believe.
was, I didn't even notice the fuel tanks there. And so I guess that's actually a good thing because of your fuel tax. But I was wondering if that would be something that we would have to consider, because service, truck repair and truck service and then selling fuel is two different things, maybe. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Good point, because previous use was for their own company internally.
Exactly, that's what Mallory mentioned before, so Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
can
Powell?
I ask, the proposed landscaping, was it inside the fence line or outside the fence line? It looks like it's inside the fence line. It may be more easier in the eyes if it was on the outside of the fence line. I don't know.
I don't know that there's room, but I don't know. And we can work with staff on that. I don't know how to answer your question, because I don't know if there's room.
I think we need, is the proposed landscaping, is it in the inside or the outside?
Of the fence line.
Outside.
Outside the fence line, okay.
Yes.
And
See that, but you can see that the fence line is an X on it as we go along.
Yeah, it's lined up with the gate.
oh, maybe I'm looking at a,
Yeah, the problem is that arrow says proposed wooden fence.
oh, I see.
It just points to the property line. It should be extended to point to the.
Okay, so it's out, okay, that's good.
The only landscaping that would be interior would be this.
Okay, that's
drive.
fine. That's good. And there will not be a scenario, like, I know there's another use could be, and it will not be allowed, that, like, somebody could come in, park their car in the truck lot, like hook up a cab to an empty trailer and take it somewhere. That's not going to be allowed, right?
Certainly not something we intend. I mean, again, these scenarios are hypothetical, not within our intent, not within our rules, so.
I mean, it's going to be, eventually, it's going to be coming, it's really what it comes down to, I think is an enforcement issue for the village, how it's going to be used. That's the way I see it.
We heard that from staff loud and clear from day one, and we're trying to establish enough of those mechanisms and safeguards, if you will, to try to address anything. But again, anything can happen.
No, that's fine, and I appreciate that. I'm just trying to get it out in the open, just so, you know, we say we brought up these things that were talked about, and, you know,
Yes.
so we're further clarifying how it's going to be used, and that's.
Thank you.
Yep. I have nothing else.
Just for the Plan Commission and for the audience, I want to clarify that fueling stations that are accessory to a permitted use are permitted in the I-3. So Mr. Shapiro was correct that it is permitted, given how it is an accessory rather than a principal use.
But as a retail?
The code doesn't get into, the zoning code doesn't specify whether it's retail sales or for free. It's just the use of the fueling itself.
Does the village get sales tax from that?
If they are selling fuel, then yes, they will be required to.
Sell it all.
And again, just so that we emphasize this again, fueling will only be for tenant vehicles. We're not going to be a gas station to the public.
But you're not giving it away for free?
Nope.
Because I'll find a way to get a key card.
That's right. That's why we're
You
asking.
can be an honorary member.
Any other questions?
We have an audience question.
Oh.
He's coming back about the bike rack.
About the bike rack,
That's right.
just for my clarification, is it a setback and then the landscaping, or the landscaping is the setback from the other property?
So the landscaping is right after the property line, and then the fence, and then the parking lot. So from your property, the Swiss Precisions, you'll see the hedge, the boxwood row, then the fence, and then the parking would be behind that.
Okay. And how many feet, or do we know?
It is going from essentially slightly inward from where the existing lot is now, all the way to Glen Avenue. So
Okay.
essentially the entire empty lot right now.
Okay, and then just one other question. Right now, we have a problem with, it's such a skinny street for big trucks. I just want to really make sure that this gate and this driveway is wide enough So trucks don't have to do any special maneuvers. It's just one turn in, because we've seen this many times where trucks do have problems because the street is so skinny.
The only, as this has been brought up, the flare of the driveway is wide enough for trailers to maneuver into that. But the one potential problem I see is the gate is right at the driveway here at the front of the property, which would require a truck to, and you may be able to clarify this, Ashley or Dan, if there's something that they physically have to swipe at a reader thing, if it's a remote, then they'll be able to remote and activate the gate before they arrive. The one potential problem is if the gate doesn't activate, there may be a truck that sits here while they're activating the remote before it opens, but that should only be a few seconds, hopefully. So, but the only way that they would have to back up or turn around is if they don't have, there's a truck that does not have access, which, as they've said many times, is not the intent, but it may happen.
Thank you.
It shows the sidewalk here. Here's that curve.
So there is a sidewalk too along that, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sidewalk remains. It's on public right of way, so that is remaining.
So that frontage along Glen, it's got a sidewalk, okay.
Correct, yes.
All right.
All right.
Conditions?
Hmm?
Go through the conditions?
Yeah, conditions,
So there were no conditions identified in the staff report, since staff wanted the Plan Commission to have this discussion and consider these elements before, going into any motion. So staff has taken the opportunity prior to the meeting to come up with some conditions that we felt would, if this were to go to a motion for a Plan Commission vote, staff has, again, prepared some conditions that we feel would be, at a minimum, a level that staff would prefer to have some of these conditions in place. So in regards to the variations, and staff is not in support of the variation, there still remains no conditions for that one. In regards to the special use for heavy motor vehicle repair, these are staff proposed conditions, as well as we've incorporated some conditions as the Plan Commission's discussion. So I'll read these. Number one, the repair facility services shall be limited to licensed tenants that are licensed through the Village's Business License Program for the subject property. Number two, there shall be no outdoor storage of equipment, vehicles in repair, and/or motor vehicle parts. Number three, prior to the issuance of a business license, the subject tenant space shall be inspected to verify a triple basin is provided for and in proper working order. And number four, the hours of operation shall be limited to the schedules identified in the project description letter dated April 26th. Dan, have any comments regarding those?
I believe one of them was, and I was trying to keep up, that the equipment had to be up to standards, or, I'm sorry.
We don't know, basically staff doesn't know if there's a triple basin receiver in the repair bay to catch any of those oils. So if there is, then we just need to inspect that to make sure it's in working order. If it's not, then that's a requirement of that use, and that would have to be installed before a business license can be issued.
No, and the storage was limited to outdoor equipment, or?
Basically, no outdoor storage of equipment, vehicles in repair, and/or parts.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So though, any questions by the Plan Commission on these staff proposed conditions for the heavy motor vehicle repair, or any additions or revisions?
You said there was nothing on the variation for 11A, right?
Correct.
Okay.
From a practical perspective, though, if you're in the middle of fixing a trailer, maybe you're going to have to put it outside for a couple of days. You're not going to restrict that, are you?
I think, as I understand what you're saying, did you mean like no overnight? If you're fixing something, you can fix it outside, but you can't keep this repaired vehicle overnight? outside.
Right.
Is that, did I
We're
capture that
saying, we're
right?
saying storage of
Parts and
vehicles there.
materials.
So anything that's longer than 48 hours, then staff would prefer it not be sitting out for multiple days or weeks. If there was a truck engine that needed to be repaired, that it's not sitting out there for.
Yeah, I could see an engines. I'm just thinking in terms of practically, if I got a trailer that's in repair or a trailer that's sitting there waiting to be loaded, how am I gonna tell the difference? Does it really make a difference? It's a trailer sitting on the parking lot.
We have
one way or the other.
we got a free 48 hours before
So
there's an issue.
Yeah.
Outdoor storage starts after 48
If you don't
hours.
have any objection, I'm just thinking that it's from, I don't know how we would care from that perspective, that it's a trailer sitting on the lot, one way or the other.
It's more just to prevent something that's in, a severe state of disrepair from being out in the open.
Yeah, when you have the weeds growing up around the tires.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. That's, you don't want to see that.
That's what.
Inoperable.
Although that does increase the green space.
Yeah, that increased it.
All right, so that is potential conditions for the special use for the heavy
Motor vehicle.
repair. Then we have the special use and site plan approval for the motor vehicle outdoor storage. So we have 10 conditions here. This is a combination of staff as well as this plan commission discussion tonight. So number one, similar to the previous one, that the outdoor storage of heavy motor vehicles shall be limited to tenants that have subject to the village's business license certificate. Number two, all heavy motor vehicle trucks and/or trailers shall be licensed and registered. Number three, there shall be no excessive idling of truck engines. Number four, there shall be no queuing and/or idling of trucks and/or trailers on Shepard Avenue and Glen Avenue. Number five, each tenant shall maintain a log or a manifest of trucks and/or trailers within the outdoor storage. Number six, details of the ornamental gate shall be provided prior to village board consideration. Number seven, an external trash container and enclosure shall be required and subject to plan commission review, except if waste management confirms that a common exterior container is not required, with written confirmation from waste management being provided to staff. Number eight, prior to the issuance of an engineering permit, the concrete curbing along the eastern row of the proposed truck trailer parking shall be modified to prevent the striking of the fence along Glen Avenue. Number nine, the hours of operation shall be limited to the schedules identified in the project description letter dated April 26th. Number 10, the existing gate on the subject site shall be converted to a motorized gate with controlled access, subject to the review and acceptance of the Fire Prevention Bureau.
Number 11, they need a snow removal plan.
What?
Snow removal plan.
Do you,
What about reefer trucks? Are they gonna be running out in the, I mean,
Yeah,
you said no idling of the engines, but what about the reefers?
Says that they're gonna have a bunch of them.
There will be reefer trucks.
right, and
But are they gonna be running all night, or?
You have to be
I don't know.
yeah,
Yes.
right. And when staff prepared that condition, it was the idling of the engines,
Right,
not the
I understand.
refrigerator trucks. We understand that that may be part of the reefer van or truck. That's just kind of the nature of that.
Yeah, and they go on and off, they're not on all the time.
Yeah.
Can I get clarification on one of the items? Snow removal plan, is that something that can be administratively dealt with staff? We really enjoy our time here, but we'd rather not have to come back.
Can you get one before it goes to the board?
And then where would that go? To the board or to you or to staff?
No, it can come to us. I just want to make sure it goes to the board.
It would just, the plan commission is just asking that you have one prepared when this does go to the board for final consideration.
We will have one before it goes to the board, and we'll submit it to staff. And that will show maybe where the snow would be put, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 spaces on the site. We'll just designate that area. That will be our plan, along with, if you need us to say we'll haul it out, we'll say that too.
Only if you mean it.
All right. there's no other questions on that one. Then we have the final special use to permit the truck freight terminal for the two operators. Again, all freight handling operations shall occur in the building or at the loading docks and not within the outdoor surface parking lots. Number two, the freight terminal special use shall be limited to 2 tenants and not exceed a gross floor area of 16,150 square feet. And number three, the hours of operation shall be limited to the schedules identified in the project description letter dated April 26th. The condition number 2 regarding the limitation on 2 tenants and the gross floor area, that was based on CMAS and SEAL, since the freight is specifically for these 2 tenants, and that's their combined floor area. So it's not limited to CMAS and SEAL. If CMAS leaves and a new tenant comes in, they would be limited to the same space that CMAS has. They wouldn't be able to expand that without having to amend the special use.
But if one of the other tenants went out and wanted to do the same type of operation, then they would have to come back to us, right?
Correct.
Let me just throw something out there. Let's say KAMAZ has a 3-year lease. They're gone after 3 years, and there's a desire then to cut up that 5,400 square feet to 2,727. That is an additional tenant. However, we're not increasing the space.
Correct.
So I'd like there to be some consideration that is, provided we don't increase the space, we can have some flexibility in order to get tenants.
Or if KAMAZ left, could SEAL take over that without any?
In that scenario, yes. The concern that staff has with splitting up the existing space and adding more tenants is that now you're adding additional freight terminal operations that could increase traffic intensity on the site. So that's staff's concern with that.
But if one leaves and the other one takes over that space, in theory, it may not increase.
Correct.
But they're talking about they want to
further
chop it up,
correct.
further chop
But
it
then
up.
SEAL would have access to that trash enclosure.
So let me throw this out again. KAMAZ right now on our chart shows 15 spaces. Would it be unreasonable for us to suggest that if KAMAZ leaves and we split it up, the number of spaces and the square footage stay the same?
Yeah.
We can't exceed 15 total spaces between the 2 tenants instead of 1 tenant, nor the square footage. It just provides flexibility in the market. Like if someone says, I only want 2,400 square feet, and the other guy says, I want 3,000 square feet, we can get those tenants in there, keep the parking allotment the same between the 2, and the square footage. That's what I would ask for your consideration.
So the ability to subdivide, granted they keep square footage and truck spaces the same?
Correct.
Yes.
But wouldn't some of it depend on what type of use was going to be in there too?
Yeah.
Well, this is all on the freight terminal, so it would be
conform.
uses that are using the special
It would
use
have to
of
be
the
very
truck
similar.
freight
We're using that
terminal.
particular use that's been assigned to them.
Yes, the cap is only on the truck freight terminal usage.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yes, right. So we would ask for your consideration to allow some flexibility there in order to potentially respond to the market.
Well, that wouldn't be up to us. That'd probably be
Well, it is
slices and all that.
The condition you're allowed to modify as staff or as the petitioner has proposed. And
As long as the use stays the same, I guess.
The use will stay the same,
The
the
use
amount of
stays-
spots will stay the same. You're just subdividing the exact same parameters.
Right. We're not increasing square footage, we're not increasing parking, but we will have the ability to put 2 tenants in there instead of 1, as an example. If someone comes in and says, I can't take 5,400 square feet, I can take 2, and the other guy says, I can take 34, then they got to deal between the 2 of them, how they get their 15
Or
spaces.
more realistically, someone might say, I only need 7 spots, and then
Maybe,
it's your
but
job.
it just allows us to respond to the market or to prospective tenants instead of locking in 5,400 square feet forever.
Well, I think that's how he stated it, though.
We've limited to 2 tenants and the space, so.
I think just limited to square footage and truck spaces. Why not?
That's what I'm advocating.
Yeah, because we're. if they
Again,
said-
the reason for was truck traffic, not necessarily truck parking spaces or number of businesses, but increasing the number of businesses increases the number of.
But if we're keeping the same number of
traffic
spaces,
generation.
maybe that mitigates that. I'm sorry, Steve.
It's
If we're
possible.
keeping the same number of spaces, that mitigates that concern.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna, I wouldn't, practically, I wouldn't think it would change that much if you split Kamaz in two. You're splitting the trucks in two, so the traffic is not gonna really.
We already don't exactly know how many trucks are going to be coming and going for those 15 spaces anyways, because like in Argus, it's different trucks, different whatever, so it's going to be fluid now, and it'll also be fluid later. So
So do you need?
they'll all be registered,
Yeah,
but
I'll read that. That's fine. Yep, it sounds like it's.
clear as mud.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that the only, were there only 3 conditions on that one?
That's
Okay.
right.
Okay, so how's it read now?
In addition to the other 8. All
So
3
we're
on that
agreeable to
thing.
those 3
Yeah.
Yes.
as
So
modified.
So just revise to say the truck freight terminal special use shall be limited to a gross floor area of 16,150 square feet.
In the
Oh,
parking,
and-
15.
And,
35 trucks.
is that what that is? Let me,
Yeah, 15 and 20.
okay, so 35,
35.
okay.
Kept their employees.
And I don't have it in front of me here, so. And 35 and no more,
It was 20 and 15,
okay,
so it's 35.
35, no more than 35 truck parking spaces.
And 16, what was the total figure?
Hmm?
What was the total square footage?
16,150.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else?
I think that's it for me.
Okay, we need a motion on 2019-11A, the variance to decrease required green space.
So,
Second.
Commissioner Blanova, and seconded by Commissioner Yednick.
Commissioner Blanova?
yes.
Commissioner Yednick?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Present.
Wait, what?
Okay, Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Chairman Johnson?
No.
It's 4 yes votes.
2019-11B, special use for motor vehicle heavy repair facility. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Commissioner Blanova,
Second.
Commissioner Kalis is second. Mr. Secretary?
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Present.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Commissioner Yednick?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes.
That's 5 votes, yes.
2019-11C, special use and site plan approval for motor vehicle heavy outdoor storage. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
Commissioner Blanova and Commissioner Kalis.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Present.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Commissioner Yednick?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes.
It's 5 yes votes.
And last is 2019-11D, special use for truck freight terminal. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Blanova and Commissioner Yednick.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Yednick?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Only because I feel that there's a lot of lacking information still on this project. I vote present.
Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers votes yes, and Chairman Johnson?
Yes.
It's 5 yes votes.
Motion.
We'll have
Motion to
Motion to
close?
close.
So moved.
Oh, sorry. Second.
Hey, jumping right into that job, aren't you?
I'm waiting to make a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Yes.
If that's appropriate.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Aye.
Thank you, all of you. Appreciate it.
How about that recess?
Yeah.
Yes, because
That
we're
would be
going to be
nice.
signing papers for a while there.
I'm not.
Can we?
So go for me, too.
Thank you. So I come out of that, I counted those as abstaining.
Yes.
Yeah. We should wait for him.
I disagree. Is that in the rules?
Steve, these are for the consent ones.
Oh, okay.
Let me get to my,
Yeah.
okay.
I'll take those. Both some are blank.
So this is a public hearing.
Okay. We gotta read
I'm gonna read my little blurb.
the little blurb.
And that's it. Here you go, Steve.
Thank you.
I did. Now we can officially start. This is docket number 2019-18, Village of Wheeling, amendment to the comprehensive plan for the station area plan. Mr. Robles, anything on this?
I'm going to hand this one over to Director Jennings to give an overview of the station area plan.
We need to reopen the public hearing.
Yes, that's right. You need to read your little blurb.
Docket number 2019-18, Village of Wheeling, seeking an amendment to the comprehensive plan for the Village of Wheeling Station Area Plan to update the entirety of the station area plan. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jennings, please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're going to give tonight to be the truth?
I do.
You.
Andrew Jennings, Director of Community Development on behalf of the Village of Wheeling. It is relatively late, and I will give you a brief overview of where we stand in this process. A lengthier discussion of this is planned for an upcoming meeting. However, for the public just following along, the Village of Wheeling Station Area Plan was approved around the time of the comprehensive plan. They were back-to-back, 2003 and 2004. There were elements of the comprehensive plan at that time that anticipated approval of the station area plan. The village had received a grant to complete a detailed TOD plan, which became the station area plan and was incorporated into the comprehensive plan. That plan has served the village very well. We've implemented many of the recommendations of that plan. However, it has become an obsolete tool for planning the future growth of the Village of Wheeling. The staff, the village board, the plan commission had decided that it was appropriate to undertake an update to that at a joint meeting. I don't have the date off the top of my head, but a joint meeting about 2 years ago. Staff developed an RFP, which was distributed. The village has been working with a consultant, Farr & Associates, along with some sub-consultants to undergo a planning process. There was a charrette that most of you participated in which the consultant for the project brought materials for a 3-day workshop. The Plan Commission, the board, the public were all invited to come and provide feedback live, direct to the consultant. Developers working in the area were also invited to come provide feedback to the consultant. As a result of all of that, the consultant prepared a draft of the station area plan update. That's been posted on our website. I hope you have all read it at least 3 times by now.
Made the memory.
The consultant, when that was posted, we distributed via social media and the village website requests for feedback. There was a survey At this time, we've compiled the survey results. You have them in your packet. The plan essentially has, the basis of the plan is a series of build-out scenarios that involve, as the basis for each one of them is the village approval of a form-based code. Each one of these recommends that the village adopt a form-based code to guide the development more focused on the form of the built environment, how buildings relate to each other and how they relate to the street, and foster the development of a more pedestrian-friendly area as opposed to traditional use-based zoning. So each one of those builds on that. The scenarios differ in how much the village would intervene, facilitate in development. So there's sort of the least amount of village action is one scenario. The next planning scenario anticipates the village working to connect the dots a little bit more. And the third scenario is a greater involvement, the village actually facilitating acquisition of property as opposed to just a lighter form of regulation in just the adoption of the code itself. So they have catchy names, the regulate scenario, the coordinate scenario, and the participate or facilitate scenario. You all participated, or most of you participated in the process by which these scenarios were developed. And at this time, the plan, although the first page of it says it's at the midpoint, it's much farther along than the midpoint. The consultant is seeking feedback from the Planning Commission in order to further refine the plan and merge the scenarios into a series of recommendations. With that, what I'd like to do is allow you, if you have feedback at this time, questions at this time, anything that we can give to the consultant so that they can prepare for the more formal presentation of the refined plan.
Okay, anybody?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, when they have the three different scenarios, are they saying we should be thinking about adopting one and that should be our goal going forward? Or are they saying you can apply each of these three scenarios to different situations as they come up? I didn't understand if it's like an all or nothing, or depending on what the request is, you're gonna.
So the purpose of the three scenarios is really to throw out different ways that the village could act to cause certain development patterns.
To guide the development.
Exactly. So what the consultant for the project has done is put them out there, sort of the small, medium, and large, and you can absolutely pick and choose elements from each one. They're looking to essentially merge these into a final recommendation. So there may be elements, there may be a specific item that falls under the participate, facilitate scenario, which is greater involvement, but that's the extent of the greater involvement that the consensus of the Plan Commission and the board might be. So Plan Commission and the board may have one specific element from that. They say, look, if we're going to be involved in something at that level, this is the one piece that we think that makes sense for. The rest of it, we kind of lean toward less involvement. So that's really what they're looking for.
But the other thing I kind of got was that it seems like they're saying, in order to do this, just in general, we need to go to a form-based code. And what I've wondered is, it's like not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but it's like throwing everything out and coming back and rewriting our code significantly. Does the village have the appetite to do that?
It's just for this one area though, right?
So you can, yeah, that's a good point. So the
What
idea.
did you say? I'm sorry.
It's just for the one area.
What the consultant is recommending right now is based on the study area that they've been given. That doesn't mean that you can't ever adopt a form-based code for anything else. But it is a tool, a more modern zoning tool that towns have been using with increasing frequency in order to produce a certain built environment that focuses less on the land uses that are inside each individual unit, but more on the way they look as a whole and how people interact with the space around them. It tends to produce a certain walkable, more traditional feel. It reduces the impact of automobiles on the area, and it is for that reason become more and more popular for as a zoning tool in traditional town center areas.
I like the endpoint. I mean, I thought it was great. That's my general feedback, aside from all the typos and the errors in the big report. And there was one section where they left out their ipsum aurum Latin stuff. They hadn't even fixed that paragraph. There's a whole section there. The endpoint to me is really good. I didn't understand how they were telling us how to get to that endpoint. You know, what? I mean, that's what I would like to see from a consultant we hire is say, okay, this is where we see in Wheeling, this is what you need to do. Here's, you know, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, how to get there. You know, they just give us a lot of examples, a lot of neat pictures, a lot of good concepts, but how do we make that happen so that we can bring in the development community or bring in the investment community, whatever?
And yeah, I agree. It's such a high level that what they're showing us now that I don't know which way to go.
It is a high level. They do preface the report by stating that they are looking for feedback, and they will use that feedback to develop some specific recommendations for implementation. If you go to what is numbered page 12, for no reason that I can guess.
On their report? Oh.
Speaking of the typos, it's about the 1, 2, 3, the third page in. They list out what the next steps would be. So utilizing the feedback, we honestly got probably a little bit less feedback from the surveys than I would have hoped for. Any feedback, of course, is appreciated. I think it would have been nice to have a little bit more than what we got. But at this point, I'm not saying that the typo feedback isn't useful. If you have those types of things, you can send them to the staff, and we'll pass it on to them. I caught a handful just tonight when I was getting ready to talk about this. A handful that I hadn't seen previously. So, but the main thing that they're looking for is feedback to guide the preparation of the final plan.
I have a question.
Sure.
How much insight were they given by you guys, staff, the village, economically, budget-wise? Because, like, I would love them we'd be involved at the highest level with everything and do all the cut-throughs and all the new roads and that looked amazing. And so I'm just wondering how much of their decision next meeting is going to be informed by reality of our budgetary and TIF and economics and all that kind of stuff.
Well, the framework for the plan does exist in reality. I mean, they do have to take into account the costs of implementing some of these. However, I think they are looking for the village to set the appetite. You know, what is the plan commission feeling? What is the board's feeling? What is the village interested in dedicating funds, general fund money, TIF fund money, what have you, to a specific project? If so, is there one that should be prioritized? As you look through here, there are some things that I would imagine would be fully on the private, the development community, and there are some things that do lend themselves more to municipal involvement. They're not likely to get done without municipal involvement.
Are those indicated, or you just know that because you're the director?
Well,
I don't know that I would know that.
So, for example, the likelihood of multiple property owners deciding on their own to dedicate certain portions of their land to develop a roadway is low. That's not something that's likely to be done just on a whim by multiple property owners.
Well, I guess that's what I would be looking for from the consultant, if they're experts at this, is how do we get to that point? You know, how do we, it seems like if you presented this openly enough, like the one thing where, you know, where they were showing where the Carnicera is, I forget the name of that development, where the
Lynn Plaza?
Where they were going to open up, Lynn Plaza, where they're going to open that up and, you know, you can bring in all that. Like, I don't know, has that even been presented to the owner of that plaza and say, hey, look, there's an idea that you can bring in these people from the townhome community. So that's what I would like the consultant to tell us, you know, how do you get from point A to point B? You know, is it, you know, like you said, that maybe we didn't get as much feedback. I've been in the village for, you know, about 18 years now. I didn't remember any solicitation for the feedback. Did we send out postcards to everybody? Did we engage the development community? That's what I would hope the consultant would be walking us through, not just saying, this is what we see the end point, but how do we get to the end point?
So I guess just to take some of those, the development community was contacted for participation in the charrette itself. So the property owners that we were aware of within the study area were contacted. They were invited to come in for the charrette. Developers who were known to be working in the area were also contacted. So their feedback, taking the example of Lynn Plaza, the owner of that property was a participant, and they were asked for their feedback. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean just by putting it on paper it happens, that the owner of that property, as a private property owner, certainly could demolish a portion of their building in order to make that happen. There are municipal incentives that they may request in order to facilitate a project like that. Just taking an example of one of the recommendations that I think falls in the coordinate, I believe, right? So it is possible, again, that the final version of this could take, if everybody really believes that that particular project is one worth including in the final, that's the kind of feedback I think that they would be looking for. And again, you don't have to provide all that feedback tonight. This is a reintroduction of the project. It's been a while since everyone has seen it. So you can take some time. You can jot down some notes. If you send them to the staff, we can compile them and provide them on to the consultant team. And they'll come prepared at the next hearing to discuss everything with you, and if it takes an additional meeting after that, so be it, but their intention is to come prepared with a first attempt at combining all of these things into a single plan.
So that's their next step, is to meet with us again?
Yes,
Or
at a public, this hearing at the end of tonight will be continued. I believe, Mr. Robles, we have a date.
Yeah, the June 27th. Plan Commission meeting.
So that's their intention, to try to incorporate as many comments as they can and prepare for a hearing that night.
I definitely want to see the Top Golf facility. That was really slick.
So they're coming with their recommendation based on feedback, staff, everything, and knowing what they, as much as they could possibly know about budgetary, property owner desires or not. As obviously, they don't know everything, but, because we don't have I don't have the information of the property owners, developers.
how much input have they gotten from the board?
At this point, just to the extent that the board participated in the charrette.
Okay.
I really like the form-based. It gives so much flexibility. The thing is with the scenarios, it's like, sure, I'd like to see scenario 3, but that seems like that's a lot of cost, and it'd be kind of interesting to know if a developer, you know, on a piece of property could come in and say, well, for this piece of property, I don't even know if this is possible. For this piece of property, you know, we want to kind of go with scenario 3, we want it robust. You know, we'll provide you with some input. this is kind of like what the end goal is, but can you help us get there, or something like sharing the cost somehow, so the burden is not totally on us. I mean, the developer can help with it, because I mean, what's presented here, it's really nice, but it's like the better the scenario, it's like the more, to me, it's like I see it being more robust.
Yeah, there's 8 sub-areas that we can look at, and I of course would like the highest level to participate of all of them, because it's the nicest, but is there any possibility that they can estimate at all what the cost is? Like from 1 to 2 to 3, it's going to be substantially more expensive, obviously, but how do you even gauge that?
I don't know if they'd be able to do that.
Yeah, I'm assuming not.
At least in the time frame given. Just to describe for anybody who may be watching who doesn't actually have a copy of this plan, the 3 scenarios, just a short sentence on each one of them for the plan commissioners. It is roughly page 54. It's the heading as you enter into that section of the plan. Number 1, regulate. What's likely to happen if the Village of Wheeling's level of involvement is limited to adopting a walkable, form-based zoning code? Number 2, coordinate. What is likely to happen if the Village of Wheeling's level of involvement is extended to coordinating cross-access easements? Number 3, participate, which I think in some graphics is also called facilitate. What is likely to happen if the Village of Wheeling's level of involvement, in addition to regulating through a form-based code, facilitates assembly of parcels into larger development sites? So it's sort of increasing.
Maybe buying up some sites.
The village possibly acquiring sites and assembling them into larger development opportunities. So to answer your question, I don't think it's likely that they will be able to cost out a lot of it. The plan does have some, already at this level, the plan does have some discussion of specific items and what it would take to pull them off, coordination with IDOT, et cetera, coordination with property owners. But that's, I would not, we could confirm this with them, but I doubt that they would be able to cost out everything that's in here.
Yeah, and I would imagine that's true. It's just hard for me to make any suggestions, recommendations when I don't know anything about the cost, the ownership's interest in giving up their property or annexing part of it or whatever. But one thing I really did love was the scale comparisons to local plazas that are like in Lake Forest, Glenview. Like I've been to the Glen, I can kind of envision what it might be because I've been to the Glen, and I wanted to go to Lake Forest just to see Market Square because it looks cool, but I want to like feel it. And so I appreciate that they gave at least some sort of a comparison to what it would be, to get us a taste. And I think I brought this up. We had a workshop or a meeting. We talked about this. I wasn't at the shred, unfortunately, but the whole pedestrian bump over the tracks on Dundee, just west, that they're saying would, the purpose of it, and just straight feedback about the plan, and I thought I questioned it before. That's to let people come from the train cross over Dundee safely, and that's great to make people safe, but it's going to like triple the traffic problem, right? Like that's the suggestion is like, why would you do that? Why would you put a pedestrian walkway across the most painful traffic source in our entire village?
Yeah. And narrow the lanes on top of it.
And I think one, just to take that example, the feedback on that, the location of the crossing, when it could be activated, I think those are questions for them. They use an example from, I believe, Libertyville for that.
Yeah.
And that crossing exists. Different municipalities have, depends on, I guess, when that was done with IDOT, what the standards were that were applied. I don't know. It looks relatively recent, actually, in the aerial photo they provided. But, is it activated only at the time the gates are down, for example?
Yeah.
If that's the case, then maybe your point is addressed. So I think that's something that we can convey.
People aren't activated when gates are down, though. People are activated when they want to cross the street.
Right.
Where they want to cross the street.
Right.
One thing I think is a big hurdle for us and I would like more feedback from the consultant on this then, is that they touch on it in their report, but our train line stinks. You know, it's like we only Monday through Friday, very limited schedule, no weekends. And I think all the comparison villages that they're looking at, you know, Arlington Heights and Mount Prospect and
Park Ridge and
Naperville or Park Ridge,
Libertyville.
they all got much better train lines. You have much higher incentive for people to congregate in those communities because they can jump into the city on the weekends or something. And I think for us to, what I was visualizing in my mind is that if we could, what is it, the baseball movie, Build It and They Will Come. I worry that we build it and they won't come because that commuting is such a limited, so I think that's a bigger hurdle. We got to work with the train, you know, people before we can really envision a good outcome.
So I can tell you just two things on that real quick. One is there's an ongoing study right now of all the communities, that involves all the communities who are on the North Central service line. It was a study that was initiated by Mundaline. I don't know if their survey is still active. I think it extended it, but I think the extended date closed.
I know I filled it out, but I don't know how I got it.
We sent it out on social media from the village.
Okay.
To Facebook and whatnot. So that study, the purpose of that study is to have all of the communities who have a joint interest in addressing service on this line work together with a transportation consultant to make recommendations. So that's ongoing right now.
Okay.
I can tell you from past experience with Metra, first of all, the service has increased in the last 15 to 20 years since the station is open. It's definitely more frequent than it used to be. In discussions with Metra in the last 7-8 years, as the development of the town center really started to take off, we've been working with Metra on the configuration of the commuter parking lot. And a big component of those discussions is ridership, boardings, and the relationship between what we're doing and the likely increase in demand. They are interested in additional service, but trains cost a lot of money. And so they do need, there is a little bit of a, if you build it, they will come. So they need to see increases in ridership. They need to see the land use change actually occur over time. But they are open to changing service.
But I'm just wondering, like, if somebody, you know, a developer that's looking at it and say, I can build out a big condo development or big apartment development, and it's like, if I'm going to choose between going, you know, to Mount Prospect or going to Wheeling, then, you know, I think I'm going to get better occupancy rates because I've already got weekend service, I've already got late night service. You know, it's really hard to get past that hurdle. I don't, you know, which comes first, the chicken or the egg, and that's the challenge. I understand their hesitation. You're right. You know,
Yeah,
why invest money unless I'm going to get the ridership?
And the impact for the municipality like Wheeling is that we've spent quite a long time investing our planning effort and our municipal investment in the idea that we can develop a transit-oriented area. And for the foreseeable future, all of the transit-oriented development really has to kind of take care of both. You know, you're trying to attract people with a train that doesn't have the service that would attract people who need to ride the train. So you still do have to basically park a lot of these developments with the idea that most of the people will have at least one car still. You'll see that with the town center developments thus far. They're parked at a pretty high ratio, and it's expensive.
Well, if I would give feedback to the developer, the consultant, is give us some help on how can we get past that, you know, that hurdle.
Sure.
I agree with both commissioners on their recent remarks about train service, and I certainly would like to see a nice walkable community. My problem, again, is, you know, they gave us an example of, you know, Park Ridge and the Glen and Lake Forest and Libertyville, and are they really taking in consideration of, you know, our community itself as far as, you know, price points and Because I would love to see, a beautiful 5-story, 10-story brick building with commercial space on the first floor, and people can walk right to the train. But, again, we're talking about a huge investment, and we're making a huge change of what we have in the rest of our village, although we do have a pretty nice airport.
They had,
So did they take that?
They did. They had they had a
Median
fairly
income
large,
or whatever?
They had a fairly large team, and if you, I don't know the page of it in here, but they did take into account the economics. They took into account what types of businesses might be missing in the area. So there is a component of that in here. One of the consultants, that was their primary role on the team, was trying to understand the market, not just...
Well, the market will go up if, like you said, build it and it will come, but
trying to get a handle for what is likely to be built, not just putting pretty pictures down here, but coming up with an idea of what the likely end users of some of these developments would be.
Well, surely the current and future residential buildings that were, whether it's Wheeling One or Townhome, they're obviously going to be raising the median income compared to what we are, or what we have been historically. So that's the trend. That's, in one sense, Wheeling is already going towards, like, they are the chicken or the egg. We're choosing to be a chicken by building more expensive housing to attract that sort of people, assuming it will actually bring people to pay that. So to take into account, a higher median income with the establishments that we're proposing, I think that's taking the risk that people are actually going to receive it well. I don't think we should downgrade our homes just, to make it what it is now.
I agree 100%.
So I got a question. The sub areas, they're all part of, they're all part of Town Center TIF, right?
The study area, the original study area, was coterminous with the Town Center 2 TIF district.
Okay.
What does that word mean?
Yes, they were. They're the same area.
Thank you.
So in the current TIF right now, I mean, we have different parcels of land. I mean, out of the proposed properties, there's different parcels that are probably zoned differently, like retail and stuff. Is the concept from the form based basically to give us more freedom and not worry so much about the zoning and allow us more flexibility on how to develop that land?
Well, it is zoning, but it's zoning with the focus on the built environment and less on the uses that occupy that built environment. It's not to say that it's going to become an industrial area.
Right.
But the focus is on constructing buildings and constructing sites that foster a certain character and worrying a little bit less about the uses that are there.
But if the way we are now, we can't even offer there, right? We really need to go to some type of form base to attract development, to actually come in and say, hey, this is, because what we're going to do is once this gets approved, I mean, we can go show this to a developer and say, okay, we have these things here. This is kind of what we're looking at. Are you interested?
You might arrive at a built form that's similar, but the idea of the form-based code is you regulate it so that the likelihood is much higher. So you're actually requiring them to conform to a certain set of standards that are that relate to where the building can be more precisely, and not just take your chances that somebody will eventually give you a site plan that you kind of have to like squeeze. Let's try to get this a little bit closer to the street. Let's try to get the cars to be a little farther to the back. This would require it.
The other thing I wonder if the consultants could, I was just looking at some of the maps that they show, like improving some pedestrian and vehicle access and bike routes. I wonder if they could give us some suggestions on some, I want to phrase it like quick hits or cheap infrastructure investments that we could put in, build some pedestrian bridges in certain locations, build some bike paths that wouldn't require a whole development, and maybe, through that, we kind of start the ball rolling to show the attraction to the developers or the property owners. I just wonder if there's areas that it wouldn't involve annexing property or something like that, if they could give us suggestions like that.
Yeah, if you take the mobility and connectivity section, for example, there are a few things in there that I think if we're looking for them to help us figure out a few that are easier, we can work with them on that. I think there are certainly things like the crossing that is not easily pulled off. The additional crossing that would be paired with the Lynn Plaza.
Yeah, even putting a bridge, even if we put a sidewalk behind Lynn Plaza and all of a sudden they start seeing traffic going through there and people spin on the street, then all of a sudden, I don't know if that would be something like, what's that?
There's a creek there too, though.
Yeah, well, they're showing like building a bridge over the creek. That's what they were trying to do, was to connect the townhouse community with Lynn Plaza, but they were talking about cutting the corner of Lynn Plaza, the center. But I'm wondering if there's easy things that we could do as a village to help start the concept.
Sure.
If they could give us advice on that.
Okay. Any other nuggets to pass on to them? I've got Be the Chicken.
We are already. Or the egg, either one, just be one of them.
What if we subsidize a train that just goes from downtown to Wheeling?
Elevated.
And then eventually,
How about an
Niles
L?
would say, hey, we want a piece of that.
Bullet train.
And then we can charge them.
Yeah.
So
Niles did
You
it
guys
with the
can
free
all go in
bus.
together and buy one of those little handcart trains. Sure.
One thing I haven't seen recommended, like how Lake Cook goes over Milwaukee, right? The overpass concept. Like, I'm sure this would be a ridiculous undertaking, but Dundee over the tracks, like.
It would have to start here.
That's what I was thinking. It would like be obstructing all of our beauty here, but that's the biggest pain point of traffic around. And we can't change Metro. We can't change the roads because of IDOT. We can't move anything except.
Yeah, we have quite a long history of studying that.
Okay.
Lowering the
I can
tracks
provide you.
So I'm not the first person that's
You're not
recommended
the
an
first.
overpass.
Well, I can, if you remind me, we
How
can.
about an underpass?
If you
We talked
remind me,
about that.
I can give you some of
Okay.
the background on it.
I'll take your word for it.
We would need a motion, if you guys have no other comments, we would need a motion to continue this to June 27th.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Powers, seconded by Commissioner Kalis. Do we need a roll call or?
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Yednick?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes.
It takes 2 seconds.
We have to close?
No, because it's
'cause
being
we're-
continued.
Never close. Just kidding.
Thank
We
you
need
for
a
your
motion to
consideration.
continue docket 2019-14 as well. to
And we need
27th.
a motion to continue docket 2019-14.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner
It was
Yednick?
Commissioner Yudnick, second by Kalis.
Thank you.
Commissioner Yednick?
It's late.
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers votes yes, and Chairman Johnson?
Yes. Approval of minutes for May 9th, including findings for dockets.
There's one glaring error.
19-6A. What?
There's one glaring error.
Okay.
We all voted yes, but all our names show under the nays. I'm trying to find it again.
I saw that too.
You saw that? Yeah, it was, where is it? Was it the 7-Eleven? No? Oh, it was docket number
2019-10.
2019-10 on page 9 for the electronic sign. The bottom of it says there were no A's and all voted nay,
Oh,
where that should be flipped.
you got that? Any other corrections noted? Okay, that will get fixed, so With that correction, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Other business. Commissioner Blanova, anything?
I have nothing at this time.
Mr. Kalis?
I love Heritage Park. I was excited to go to a concert there. Excited summer's season is coming. I would recommend anyone look at the calendar, go to the concerts at Heritage Park. They're amazing. It was like a record crowd for 16 candles, but it was great. So check it out. That's all.
Commissioner Powers?
Only thing is next meeting will be my last meeting. We should probably have a discussion about in the secretary. We can talk about that at the next meeting.
I thought we could get to that tonight, but we'll have to definitely.
Yeah, we'll skip.
Motion to continue that discussion.
So, anyone who wants those positions, just think about it. Commissioner Creech, any other business?
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Commissioner Yadnak?
I may miss the 27th meeting. I don't know yet. But after I found out we're going to continue the station area plan, I kind of want to try to make it, so.
So we can do 4
I will
now.
let you know a couple days before whether I'm going to have a conflict.
All right. Mallory, anything?
Nothing.
Steve? Nope. Andrew, anything else?
No, thank you.
Thanks to the staff for the new format. I think everybody appreciated that, and the comments for JV Global helped. We'll get to the internal elections next time. Just a reminder, because we're shorthanded and I don't know when we're going to get other seats filled, keep Steve and I informed if you're going to be missing. I think that's it. Happy Father's Day to the dads out there. Oh, and the 125th parade, 125th year of Wheeling parade will be Sunday the 23rd at 4 o'clock, right out here. All right. If there's nothing else, motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. We're adjourned.